to the point. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's Thursday, December 5th, 2019. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Born enough one.
Okay, did you file any more minutes and reports?
No.
You guys got anything new on your agendas?
No.
Or your meetings? Okay. Any commission comments?
Hope you better move.
Okay. Bids and no, that's bids and contracts. Okay. Unfinished business. Nope. Okay, new business. 2020 ambulance purchasing. This won't take long, Donnie.
Proceed as soon as I leave.
Thank you.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
As you guys have previously indicated, look at getting 3 ambulances for next year in the proposed budget. Right now, we have a 4th ambulance that's going to roll 200,000 miles by the end of this year. So we need to start the procurement process in getting those ambulances. Right now, you're looking at about 6 months, 5 to 6 months from the time of order before they would be ready. And then it takes approximately 4 to 6 weeks to actually get them ready, stocked, all the radios, et cetera, put in. So what we've done is we've brought forward, we'd like to request permission to move forward, knowing that we'll be encumbering this year for a couple of weeks until next year's budget to purchase 3 of the Demir's ambulances. Each ambulance will be $192,370. Our crews currently are working out of the 4 Demir's that we have. They seem to be pretty satisfied with those. They've been doing well. We've had minimal maintenance cost on anything that we have had has been taken care of extremely quickly. The current fleet that we have that are not Demir's has been costing us, if you look at our budget this year, we've overrun on maintenance cost on them for engine-related things, stuff like that. And so we're kind of hemorrhaging money on the maintenance of the older fleet. So the sooner we can get units purchased and into the fleet, we believe that that'll lower our maintenance cost to the county. So if you have any questions.
I don't have any questions. I'm good with moving forward.
Well, I would still like to put them out for bid. I mean, I know it takes more time, but I would like for Osage Ambulance to have an opportunity to bid on these. I know, we've talked about this, but if you give them the requirements of what we need and they say, well, we can't do it, or this is how much it is, we've still given them an opportunity to bid. And when I went to Lynn and talked to them,
The last thing that we had a discussion with them is they're almost a year out from the time of purchase
Yeah.
before that you can get delivery.
And they couldn't meet a lot of the requirements that we had the
I
last
believe it
round.
was 5 that they were unable to meet when we initially went out for quotes and provided the list of what we were looking for. I believe there were 5 items that they were unable to do.
Wasn't one of those the locks on the doors?
No, sir, they were able to do that.
Okay.
Well, we went through it extensively when we bid it the first time, and we looked at different ambulances. And I'm pretty much committed to working with Demir's. And if we get them ordered now, it helps us, actually gonna save us money, because next year there'd be an increase in the price. This year, we can get these ordered. Basically, we don't pay for them until next year anyway, but that we get them ordered and get them coming. So less time we wait, we get them coming. We got a lot of ambulances already getting high in mileage, so it's, you want the best and safest vehicles coming to save you.
One of the things we have been able to do between the cost difference from last year for those 4 ambulances was roughly $68,000 in savings to the taxpayers that we were able to do. We've been able to take that money and use it to get life-saving equipment that better helps us provide care to the citizens. So we believe that any opportunity that we have to be able to reduce the cost and take that money and use it elsewhere to improve our life-saving capabilities is an opportunity we need to continue to do.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm good, do we need to vote on it or just okay it?
I believe you need to vote on it, sir.
Okay.
You have to send a transfer as well.
Transfers, we don't need transfers. Just add them to the.
So are you buying 2 or 3?
Well, we had bought the 2 after the tornado using next year's money, right?
Correct. We had done that and gotten some of the money back from the insurance company, and I believe FEMA is currently, the last thing we heard was they'll do a one-time replacement cost since we didn't have replacement on the insurance, as long as knowing in the future that if we don't change that insurance policy, that they won't do that again. I believe it's minus the what we got from the insurance and the deductible.
We haven't gotten an okay on that yet.
Correct. There's no okay on that, but that's the last thing we had heard from them.
So, do we have the money?
What do you mean? You're gonna have to move from contingency.
The money would be in the budget next year. I mean, it's just spending it early, getting the things ordered so that we have them next year. Otherwise, it'd be 2021 before we'd have any. So,
But we did the 2 earlier using next year's money too. I'm just,
And the pricing here is based on 3, because they gave a volume discount on that. If you go with 2, then we'll have to change that up. I believe it goes, the price difference would be about $4,000.
about how much?
About $4,000.
Get them coming.
I move that we approve the purchase of 3 Demers ambulance.
Second.
Do a roll call.
Sam,
No?
Jeff,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Matt. 2020 budget hearing, 8:30, Donnie Schulte.
Okay, thanks, Lynn.
Yeah. Needs to get that taken care of.
Yeah, that's the plan. He has a couple of fresh copies, some things have changed, I got some things, since I turned this in, I need to add to that I didn't.
Prices have gone down? Prices have gone down?
I wish. I got one for each of you, I think, on 2 different things. Did you all get the other copies that I had made up of the job descriptions, did you all get those?
Is that what you emailed?
No, it's.
I got one, there should be one. I gave 5 copies, 4 copies to Debbie. Those copies?
Here, I think.
I gave them,
You should have copies. No,
We
I think
should.
they're all the same thing, all one another.
and they're on the
Uh,
file. They're all
That's just
there.
one of those files, I should have one, should have had one that sent. Oh, no, these are all different,
Oh, these are all different?
yeah.
Oh.
You got one of those for me?
Each person we have employed by you
I
all.
think said they're all different,
Oh.
so.
Okay.
You didn't email
No, I
it?
got one.
I had some kind of email from you, but that wasn't on it.
That was the one I brought over. I brought over 5 copies of Debbie's, I hadn't had one.
You can go on the drive for, Commissioner's budget 2020
Are they in that?
and department's request. Yeah.
Okay.
Christian will forward that email. I would assume it hasn't changed.
You guys need me to send it?
Can you just pull it up?
I can.
What page are we on for Donnie here? You know?
What page are we, Kristen?
67.
You go F drive, then Commissioner's budget,
Uh-huh.
Commission, Commissioner's budget,
2020.
Should be job description.
2020.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Some says
Yep.
department's request.
It just makes it easier to go over your job.
Right.
Department budget requested, budget for bailiff and pretrial service.
Yes.
Is that what it's at?
I'm asking for about $5,197 pay increases for the marshals, court marshals itself. The biggest increase is for the pre-release side. When Kristen talked to me, all the marshals' salary was raised. You all set it at $45,000. Well, they were hired in at $40,000, and they are actual deputy marshals. They do keep higher than the rest. And I do use them in court from time to time to keep using my part-time people. When I need somebody for 2 hours, I pull them up and get them to work, to stay working the course with us also. Also raised Richard's salary from $50,000 to $60,000. He's supervising more employees, we've got 135 people out. I'll let you explain.
Well, I think this year has been fruits of the tree for all of us. In 2013, when you all gave us the opportunity to create this program, we had no clue what the Supreme Court was going to do this year with the forcing the review of bonding and the things that's going on with that with the Supreme Court and the courts. The beautiful thing was for this county, we had all of that in place. Initially, we started doing what the Supreme Court ordered in July. We started it in April. Our judges were able, because we had already been practicing some of the principles that they had requested. So the transition for us into this new Supreme Court ruling was simple. It was easy for us. Other counties are struggling, they're still struggling. And so I think that journey you all took with us in 2013 and creating this program has paid dividends unforeseen in 2019. The other thing I think that has been a blessing for the county is the ability for the county to sell prison beds to the feds. And I think if you look at an account over in the Sheriff's Department, there's probably in excess of $9 million, which some of that money correlates to the billed bed dates that the county sold to the federal system. I'm just saying that I believe that we can do better in what we're doing right now, pre-trial in the court systems. And I think that the thing that I would like for you all to consider is using some of that saved money that is in those accounts to help us further what we're trying to do to limit cost and provide better service to the county and to the citizens. One of the big things I think that has come out the last 2 years is this committee, this criminal justice committee that was kind of dwarfed out of a pretrial committee that was put together by Judge Joyce. And I know that Chris has been involved with us and kind of taken these steps with us as we went along. And I see a lot of growth in this group. One of the big things that's coming out of this group is we're trying to partner with an organization that provides services to people that are at risk in the community. And they bring in and provide service and money for the county to help them provide services for people that have mental health, drug addiction, housing, all those type of issues that lead to crime. And a lot of the criminogenic things that I think we have addressed with this program has helped reduce some of the crime that's occurring in Cole County. And I think that the next step that we're looking at in this group of addressing is domestic violence and also mental health. And those two areas, I think, are leading contributors to jail cost. Judge, I think if you talk with Sheriff Wheeler, he'll tell you that one of his major issues is mental health over there in that jail facility. And trying to get those people into different facilities more at the state level where they can get the services they need. Setting in a jail cell doesn't solve their problem. It doesn't address their mental health issues. We're just stockpiling those people at a significant cost to the county. And I think we need to get that cost out into the state to where the real resources are.
I think John had said that he was receiving money for our mental health, and now with our new facility they're building in Fulton, they're not putting in an area for us to house those. So I don't, mental health is, I don't know what to do.
Well, mental health is so much more than just services that they get inside the jail.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
services that people get outside in the community. And then so many other things as we see in our pretrial program and, so, there's all these groups that are there, and we had Bill Dent the other day talking a little bit about something else there, and but it's these groups outside that help people before they get into all this trouble, or they keep them out of the jail, or they help them to rehabilitate so that they don't commit another crime and they can stay employed. And so I mean, that's really what we're talking about.
So how are those groups paid?
A lot of them are privately funded. There's grant funding that they get, and we're working with the state too, and probation and parole. So, they have the same issues that we have, but you can't just keep locking people up because state prisons are downsizing. The county jails are all full, as we found out over at the Capitol one day. They're full beyond capacity. And so they have no idea what to do with all these people. And most of them house all their own prisoners, and their budgets are ridiculous. And they're going broke fast.
Well, local hospitals can't take care of them either, so it's,
We have basically gotten two guardianships. We've kind of found a system now where we can help people get guardianships with the hospital. We're kind of partnering with them in their mental health to get the necessary information that's needed to do the guardianships, to get these people out of jails and into a secured housing area. We just got a man that basically came in here. He was here for 3 weeks, and he had been traveling and homeless for years. And within about I would say probably 70 or 80 days, we got him a guardianship, and we got him in a residential facility in Sedalia. The charges were dismissed against him because we now had him in a secure environment where he could do what he needed to do and be taken care of, and the man couldn't have stood trial. This is the type of guy you would have in jail for months because there's no one out there for him, but because of the program and getting him the services, we're able to get this individual out. So what I'm asking basically, guys, is to another part-time position. Most of this on the back page has already been accomplished. Randy has been moved up to a full-time position. We did not increase Butch's salary. Mary Ann did receive an increase in her salary, and she is working the hours. What I'm asking for is a new administrative assistant, and that individual, I think we have a target on that individual. The individual is someone that can work not only with us, He can work with the marshals, and he can also work with the state court, or with the Julie's job.
And Jesse Hancock, we got him on staff.
Oh, yeah.
He can come in. I can also, we have murder trials starting every month, starting next month. And 2 murder trials next year, capital murder trials. On both those trials, Julie cannot do anything with the jury because she's related to the victim. So we're gonna have to have somebody else come in and do all the jury stuff. I can get him to do that because he's still working for Richard. If we could share. And that's another reason why I thought the salary went up from a minimal, like $11,000 an hour up to what he's paid now.
And right now, last week, we had 140 on the program, just to kind of keep you abreast. When we started last year, we were getting into the hundreds. Now we're up to 140, and basically we're doing it with the same staff. So these guys, I can't tell you how much they do. They don't take lunches. They work every 3rd weekend. They're on call, and they take up to 50 phone calls a day.
Those job descriptions are written up, we wrote those up and want to understand that's the type of people that you know working for you this year. That's it, we're all on our downside. I'd like to keep these guys another year, maybe into the year after that, start training the new people to take over where we're at. Because like you know, we're numbered in our years, so. If you look at the quality of people that I have brought on board, I have division directors, we have probation and parole people, we've got the best people,
Oh, Jesse's good.
you know, so
Yeah.
I'm just asking for a little help. I'd like to keep them all for another year and maybe a little longer if we can.
So did you say the salaries have already been increased? You've got those
They-
parts, so basically
have
right
not.
now.
They have not.
The two deputy marshals we have, they're not deputy marshals, they're put in civilian employees and they're not because they fire for arrest. They're deputy marshal positions.
So they're currently both at 40,000, not 45.
$35,000 a year each for those.
Okay, but I hate using names, but Randy's position has been already moved part-time to full-time?
Correct.
Okay, so that
We
part's
did that
done.
in July.
It just wasn't raised up to the beginning salaries of deputy marshal.
Are they on our insurance and retirement?
No,
Okay, yes, for that.
So my biggest concern with their department is we've added almost $300,000 in expenses the last few years for the program, but there's no revenue coming into general fund to offset it. So we keep adding costs, but we don't have a way to help offset that cost, so general fund's picking up that additional amount.
Yeah.
And I think that the generated money from the federal beds, I think is a direct response to what you all started with this program. I think it gave you a source of income that you would not have. And I think it relates to to this program and what we've done. And
those bids would not be available without this program. What you all do with the things.
Was corrections, they're giving us so much a day, aren't they, for,
the way the billing
No.
goes for that is.
well, I mean, they're,
No, they only pay, so someone can sit in that jail for 2 years, and if they never get convicted and never serve 1 day at JCCC, we get 0.
yeah, I know.
So, I mean, so they're way behind in that, and so that's why all counties, or anybody that has a jail, is all mad about the reimbursements. Well, the state don't have the money. I mean, you can say whatever you want, but the reimbursements, in my opinion, will never be there. They're gonna limp along. There's no way they're ever gonna get caught up.
More
And-
people incarcerated now than has been in the past.
And so, the reason that we started this program is because when we get people out of jail, it costs us $5 or $6 a day to monitor them. Well, right now, we got 140 people out of the jail every day. That's over $2 million that it would cost us to house those people, whether we housed them or we put them elsewhere, which we did. When I,
Would not be the program today, you'd be housing 60 prisoners out
Yeah.
someplace else.
yeah, we would hire, we would have them in Greene County, we'd have
Yeah,
them
we-
where,
yeah, and we
we'd
tried.
have them wherever, and we did
Yeah.
that. And so, it's a,
There's our checkbook.
it's not to, it's not to say,
I thought though that Mac, last year, I thought they were saying they were gonna pay so much a day for the ones out on.
They would like to, but I can tell you right now, Mr. Bushman, that money's not there, it's never gonna be there.
Okay.
This latest thing where they spent $5 million for some monitoring equipment, in my opinion, is ludicrous because they don't have anything in place to run it. And that's what these counties are running into. They don't have a program to release people to. And so some of them are running them out of their jails, some of them are running them through the clerk's office, having a clerk handle it. And so I think what we provided to you and is a systematic look at how to release somebody and releasing the right people. And I think if you would ask the sheriff, that most of the people in his jail right now are dangerous people. That most of the people that can be supervised in the community, we have and are supervising out in the community. And it's a constant effort, and I can tell you that the law enforcement community, in my view, is working together better now than it was when we started this 7 years ago. I think I'm talking to the police all the time. They're giving me information on my people. They're calling me about information. If we get information, we're sharing with them. I think there's a lot of brotherhood back in the law enforcement community that honestly I thought was lacking when I first came back here. But that was just an outsider's view, and Donnie's been around it longer than I have here locally.
so when I came on the commission, the sheriff's budget was in the red every year, and the projections were in the red. And so, yeah, we started this with a minimal amount of money, and yeah, it's grown. But the sheriff's budget's in the black big time. And so, he's got the resources that he needs. So all these things do have to work hand in hand.
They won't be on.
And we got the judges on board, we got all the people on board, meeting together, working together. And so, you can't just look at the dollars. Obviously we got to figure out how to fund these things, but at the same time, we kick out the 40 or 50 federal prisoners that we got, we lose that revenue, and we stick all these people back in the jail. And so, and more. So if you got 50 federal and you stick 50 of these people back, you still have, another 90 to house elsewhere, and what's that gonna cost you? It'd be $3.5 million that's what it'd cost you. You lose all your federal revenue, plus you'd have to house all these people, and so.
If you stop and look at it, we're asking basically for a part-time person, and we've almost tripled in 2 years, our inmates that we're, and all we're asking for, we did the shift in July where we put Randy on full-time. So basically all I'm asking to do is replace that administrative assistant. I'm not gonna have anybody to do the accounting portion of it that we did before. I'm basically gonna be doing that. I have to have people that are there that are doing reports and in court in order to keep things moving.
Randy, Richard, and Bush, we do another, making reports and making contacts. Jesse, we do most of the court duty, where he'll come into court, take notes, and come back and know what's going on.
Are we gonna have a ceiling where, so this is the max we can handle on pretrial
We have not
release?
done that
or-
yet. I'm not looking at a ceiling. What I'm looking at is if people are doing well in the program, transferring them out of the program, you know, as opposed to keeping them till the end. The biggest issue we have in pretrial is there's no public defenders to move the cases. And as long as we have that issue, that's driving up the amount of time that I'm supervising those folks, which drives up failure rates, because the longer you supervise them in this capacity, the more likely they are to fail. So consequently, what I'm battling is making sure that if I have somebody that's doing well, that's progressing well, right now we basically have them on call in as opposed to coming in and seeing us every day. That's the way we're managing in that. But it may be a situation where we actually take them off the program if they're doing well and doing what they're supposed to do.
We had 97 cases yesterday, about 80. And I would say 6 to 10 of those are still waiting on public defenders. They've been approved, but there's a 6-month wait before they get into court.
In Henry County, it's 2 years.
And we have another guy from drug court trying to get him, got past drug court now, and he's got a case in St. Charles, and they said they've got a year back on it. Boy, he's a
I mean, I think the biggest point of our group, and I say ours just because I attend, but is that we're looking for solutions.
Right.
We're looking for other options to be able to keep people from being incarcerated or whatever. And so, you know, I mean, if the public defender things that, you know, we have the public defender there, Justin's at our meetings and stuff too. So, you know, we just got to find solutions. We can't just keep bitching about the same problems over and over. We got to figure out a way to fix it, speed the process up, get them through the system, you know, get them out of our jail or get them over to JCCC and wherever they need to go. And but I mean, I don't like to just complain about stuff. I like to find a way to fix it. And so,
And I can tell you right now, the prison population, I talked with Vince Ross yesterday, it's 26,000. That's 6,000 less than it was 2 years ago.
So how
There's
many
6,000
case managers do y'all have?
I'm sorry?
How many case managers do y'all have right now?
Well, case managers, we have none. I think that was a title that may have been given to Randy and Butch and myself. I'm not sure. All of us are doing the same thing.
I'm just looking at the grid that we went off last year. We got court martial 1, 2, case managers 1, 2, so I'm trying to get where we're at with that.
I
So-
thought we were all hired on as marshals. That's the badge we carried, that was our
But I
understanding.
thought the ones handling the pretrial release were gonna be case managers or.
That was the title we assigned them last year. We broke them out and made them their own
But see,
Okay.
grouping.
there's not one of us available. Sometimes they have a dirty urine, they have to arrest them. All of us are in court or doing something, they have to do that. And I do use them in court from time to time.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
you
they
made-
are marshals, yeah.
You made a good argument, but we don't have the budget for 6 marshals. We got budget for 3 marshals and 3 case managers or whatever the number is, right? So.
So,
I'm just trying to figure out where we're at, and I see where you want to go, is you're wanting to move them to the court marshals are at the 45 number. So, and if, it's just like in public works, if we don't have an operator 3 position or operator position open, we can't just put people in positions that we don't have, so.
Well, I didn't put it down as case manager. I was never asked about that part.
since they were so new, we didn't really change their amounts. We changed their title to pull those pretrial people out separately from the marshals.
Yeah, I mean, they're essentially court marshals anyway, but it's a different,
Program.
Grouping, yeah, they're working a different program.
It's just the same thing. They can do the same job I do tomorrow.
so then they should have been hired in at that,
Yes, sir.
so.
That's what I was
Do we,
saying.
Well, so,
I'm not understanding
When
exactly.
when we talked earlier, she told me that they were gonna start the budget at 45,000 for the marshals. And how do you?
Well, so it all goes back though, when we moved Butch from part-time to full-time, your request was 40,000. So we moved him to $40,000 salary. So then when we moved Randy from part-time to full-time, we couldn't go above Butch and take him to 45 when we were still had Butch at 40. So we brought him in at 40 as well.
Okay.
And I
As
think part of
court
that
marshals
was,
or case
we had no,
managers?
well, I had no clue.
I don't know that they had a title when they started. It was a new
I mean, I don't care if they're
program.
all court marshals and you have court marshal 1, 2, 3, 4,
That's what.
7.
Mhm.
Job description said.
So, that's, but I'm trying to stick with somewhat of a grid here.
I think what was represented to them, they were coming on as marshals. I had no clue about the pay scale. When we set Butch's salary, that was set just based upon an amount. I had no clue as far as salary. Let me tell you, and this is just my view of it, to pay these guys, they ought to be making what lieutenants are over at the sheriff's department. I think they have that type of
They're gonna take a
responsibility.
pay cut.
But I'm just saying, these guys are quality guys, they're educated guys, and they believe in the program, so they were willing to do whatever it took to make this work.
Yeah, I'm not questioning
Yeah,
the
no,
quality
we're
of
not.
our employees at all. I'm just looking at trying to be consistent across the board, because we got everybody coming in here saying, got a great employee, I should be paying them more. Yeah, pretty much across the county we have that. I don't know if y'all listened to the budgets the last 3 days, but it's been the theme is that I would rather take care of the people we have right now than hire more people. And is the program gonna fail if we don't have this new administrative assistant?
Well, no, I mean, it's not gonna fail.
Because I'd like to keep working within our means there. I'm not saying no to it right now, just, that's where I'm at with it, though, is leaning that way. And then the salary, I mean, where did that number come from? Because we don't have any assistants that make the equivalent of $37,000 a year. So
37. It wouldn't
Where
be
you at?
37.
$18 an hour at full-time rate would
It
be
won't be
37
full-time,
a year.
it's gonna be part-time.
Well, I know it's only part-time, but I take $18 times
Yeah.
and just, we'll have a bunch of assistants that would be ticked off.
We were about 20 hours a week.
No, 29 is what we
29.
put in.
Yeah.
Because the initial thought was Jesse, because of his ability, could help in a lot of different areas. So if Donnie needed him, to do something, he could do it. If Julie needed him to help with something there, he could use it. I mean, he's the type of guy that can work in any portion of the courts. And so that's the value of having somebody like him. I mean, you can hire a secretary for $11 an hour, but that's what you got. With him, you got somebody I can send up to court and can sit in court with a judge and with a laptop and say, okay, here's what's going on with this guy, we've interviewed him. He's that type of guy. You don't find those guys walking around on the streets, I mean.
Everybody you've got down there is the highest quality you've got working for you. I'm not trying to drag anybody else in any lower.
But I can tell you at the time that we set that salary, I had no clue that 45,000 was the minimum for a deputy marshal.
It wasn't. It
Okay,
wasn't.
so will that, I mean,
So when she come over and told me it's 45, I never complained at all, that's fine with me, I had no problem. Usually we'd come in, when I first started, we'd come in with a court order from Kinder, and that's just what you pay, whatever you ordered. And now we come in, we got to talk it over, and she go over and told us 45, I never complained, that was a fine salary to start with, I had no problem with that. My only problem was that all these guys got hired in it, I'd like to bring them up to all that one salary.
I mean, it's obviously a great program and it's saving us money, so, I mean, we just got some tough decisions to make on
I
how we
understand.
move forward, so.
The only thing I asked you
It
to
is a
look
great
at
program. I appreciate y'all.
is the money that's been generated and that is in that fund, and think that that's at your discretion on how you spend it. Because it was your all's decision to move forward with this program. And I think it was a wise decision, and I think as a result of that, you have generated over $9 million. And that's realized gain, and I think, you know, that money could be used to keep going in this area and keep progressing in this area, because this is not gonna change, this is gonna continue. And I think the longer we stay at the front of it, I know a lot of places look at what we're doing here and how we're doing it in making plans on their programs and other areas.
Yeah, you should have been teaching that class last year rather than the people they had. You knew more about it, so.
I appreciate that.
Richard, do you wanna talk about the software as
Yeah,
well?
I can. Last year, when we started the program, Judge Beadham went over to the state courts and was able to get them to help us develop a software, I'm gonna say a program, it's really an access program that they created. And we have been using that access program for the past 7 years. We have about 2,400 entries into that program and a whole bunch of information in there. There's a couple problems with the program. One of them is they never finished it. And so what initially was planned is that as we entered data into the system, that we could, from that data enter, develop a
No.
report.
This
That
instead of-
it would fill, and we could develop a report from that system. They never got it working. So basically, everything that we enter into that system, we have to come back and re-enter that same information into a report, which takes considerable amount of time to re-enter everything. We're basically working off about 7 spreadsheets down there on our program, which we have to continually enter the same data in over and over again, which is a significant workload for us. So last April, probably we were down, the state program that we had crashed about 2 to 3 times a week, and we had a hell of a mess all the way up till about July. And they finally got it fixed, and we've not had experienced as many or as significant a problem since July, whenever they did whatever they did. So because of that, I went out and started looking at a program for us to purchase to where we could enter the data one time, and that data could be shared and create reports to where we could manage our workload among, doing these reports and also managing people in the system. So I went to and found this company that offers basically a pretrial program, and I got a quote from them for this pretrial program. What that would do for us, it would reduce the amount of time it takes us to generate reports, which would reduce the workload on our people and would make us be more effective and efficient. It would also create statistics. Right now, in order for me to create statistics for you all, I have to go into a spreadsheet and basically take the information off the spreadsheet, which is time consuming. So what this is just a program that we were looking at to see if we could manage the information and the data better and cut down on some of our workload.
So, Richard, which portion of this is an ongoing fee versus a one-time fee?
The 21.
231.
Okay, the top fee is the 9,170. That is, there's a continual fee of about, I think, $2,000 they've reduced that each year. Plus, if we use the Amazon platform, there would be that $6,000 fee there that you see. If we do not use the Amazon format, it would be around $2,000 would be that annual fee for that.
So if you didn't use the Amazon, you would have to purchase a server or something to house it on, is that?
I've talked with Brian, we can put it on the server downstairs. Okay, there's not an issue with that. He and I have talked, we've had some communications with them. So basically that if you don't use the Amazon cloud and we do it all in-house, it'll be that $2,000 renewing fee. The $21,000 is the
One
creating the
time.
program.
That's just a one-time only? Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
Okay.
exactly what it is.
so I had $2,500 in the capital for software, cause we weren't sure pricing until we got this,
They have reduced that amount. I can give you the new figures because of them. Sure. Because of some things.
Okay.
Sorry. I had to do the parts there.
And I think from talking with Brian, the biggest issue I've got to resolve is with state courts. Right now, we use their software to run our program. I have to see if they will allow this on their software. If they do not allow this on their software, then we would have to go off of their software package and use the accountants. It's, and Brian seems to think it's a doable thing. We would probably still maintain one computer on the state package, so if we had to go in and do things in that system, we could do that.
So it seems like it would benefit the courts as well, with processing and managing the defendants.
Yes, sir.
Would they be willing to go in on it?
I haven't asked them, I can certainly can
I
ask
mean, have you
them.
talked to them about this program? I don't know, I just Googled it on.
I've talked with Judge Joyce about the program, but I have not asked them if they would be willing to supply any funding.
Is it a
I think
total? I'm sorry, Jeff. Is this a total of 30,000? Is that what it's gonna cost? Upfront
That-
pay?
That's for the initial installation, yes.
So I understand the importance of this program, and like I was talking to Chris, and I think I was talking to Jeff too about this. It's a very symbiotic relationship that we have, that we all three, we need federal prisoners, we need pretrial, and of course, we need the jail. And I'm willing to work with it. A one-time cost, I'm willing to supply some money for that, because I think that it would benefit them greatly. The problem I have is the operational cost it takes away from my operations. That's what it is. We do have a good budget. I am in the black, $500. So we're doing pretty good on our budget. I'm going to continue to do that. One-time payments, I have funds specifically for inmates that I can spend, and I would be happy to spend some money on this particular project if it benefits the PTS.
Can you check with the state and make sure this is,
Yeah,
And then-
I really haven't gone forward with it because I didn't know if if it was something we could do. But I have, I've been talking with Brian, and I've also looked at what I have to go through with the state. I have to submit a proposal to them, and then I have to go over, and they have a meeting, and they go over it. The likelihood of them allowing us to let this company have access to their program is probably not real high. So I'm thinking more along the lines, we would probably have to go with our own server. My understanding is the actual hardware, the laptops that we own are our laptops. However, the state claims them because they have their program on it. So they would take, I guess, their program off of our laptops, and then we would have to install a program and use the county server to run basically our program off the county server.
you know, I'm good with, especially if, check with, see if the courts would pay for part of it too.
I would,
But,
But it seems like it would help them, and it's
Yeah.
just what I'm looking at, it just helps them manage and go through stuff and make sure everybody's
Yeah.
treated the same and they have some kind of system in place. And then it just, you know,
Or
helps
enter
make this
data
program
points.
more sustainable
Yeah.
and effective.
yeah,
Was this off of a state contract or a
No.
purchasing?
no, I think we would have to go through a bidding, I'm guessing, is probably what we would have to go through. This was just a company I found that actually had a pretrial program. Pretrial is so new across the country, there's just not a lot out there. And a lot of these programs, they don't write them until they see there's money out there, and they want it at the state level. They want to come in and sell this to the state, you know, to provide it for all the people in the state. I've been trying to get the state courts to look at something like this, or for them to create something like this and get ahead of the game, because I do think there's gonna be a lot more pretrial programs, but I have not had much buy-in from the state, so.
okay.
Well, they don't have to, because we're doing it.
That's right, that's
Yeah.
exactly right.
And you know what,
Yeah.
that's what this is all about. That's why the inmates, they're coming back to the counties.
They're pushing the prisoners out to us, and we're having to pay for it. The citizens of Cole County are having to pay for it.
Yeah. Get that down, Jeff. Yeah, yeah.
So the compass classification, is that something that you all use at the jail, John? Or, I mean, this program seems like it's got a little bit of everything.
Well, we use a program, the classification program we use through is Interpol. So whenever they come in, we go through all of the process. I'm sure it's similar. It is not something that we would utilize in the
Okay.
jail. But I don't know if an interface would work in there to where you could pull the data. I don't know if that's someplace we could talk to Interpol about to see how much it would cost to.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, that would be something that we
Yeah.
could also look at, because certainly the information you're entering,
Why redundant?
you know, is,
Yeah.
it's just redundant. It's the same, you know, and that's what's killing us is, you know, I put a guy's name in 7 different programs, you know? And so, and everything about him that goes in those programs, I have to redo each time. So that's one of the big things I'm trying to get away from to help manage time, our time better, you know, on working on these cases. That's why, you know, I've been reluctant to ask for more staffing, because we're trying to do things smarter and not increase staffing, but we've got to the point where we're growing so fast, and the work is piling on us because of the deadlines. Basically, Judge Walker gives us 7 days to get a report. Well, if you go in and interview 15 people twice a week, you can imagine trying to get reports generated in 7 days on, you know, twice a week doing 15 people.
Why don't you two see if you can work
Yeah.
it out? You got anything else? We're 20 minutes behind schedule.
Sorry.
Well, you can do what you gotta do in 8 minutes, right?
No, I just want you, so I get a copy of it.
Girls bought their hats and gloves, they wanted to come
Take a
over
look.
there.
Okay.
And then you complain when it's hot in the summer. Man, I'll tell you, we can't please you.
Do you guys have any other questions for Richard before he leaves?
No, not right now. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the opportunity.
Steve, you're up.
Okay, what page is Steve on?
Steve is page 33.
I've been scared.
And can you guys make sure, is everybody signed this?
Yeah.
I'm not doing a very good job, Berlin.
I'm slow and sure.
Excuse me, sir.
Pardon me, sir.
The gun is poking me. Are we ready?
We're ready.
So I was serious about the heat. We really need to do something about it, but I don't know if there's something in the budget for it or not, but, you know, we don't have a thermostat or everything in our office. It is very cold in there, so. I don't know what we're gonna do. It's hot over here, and I can see why you guys wanna turn the thermostat down here, because it's really hot in here, but now it's you know, it's 70 degrees in our office or 69 degrees, so something has got to be done.
That's why I like keep it at home.
But, well, why don't you give us the thermostat back? Just take it out of here and put it in our office.
No.
Okay, okay.
We're not in here very much.
No, we're not, yeah.
So anyway, something's really gotta be done with that, so. But anyway, on the budget part of it, I guess, everything looks pretty good to me, except I'm kinda worried about the election expense part. It looks like there's about $60,000 difference between what Kristen's asking and what I'm asking. We do have 5 elections. They did add one to us in February. There's a water district in Taos now that's gonna have an election in February. So we'll have to put some money in for that. Probably $5,000 or $6,000. They'll pay us back.
I
It's
was
not gonna
still
cost
using
us.
it, but
It's
we
just
need
a
it.
pass through, but we estimated, I think, $5,000 or $6,000 to do that election. And I don't know what to do with the other discrepancy. It's just hard to tell. You know, you don't know what's gonna be on the ballot. You don't know how many races you're gonna have. Don't know what Atkins is gonna do. I'm sure their price is gonna go up. You know, this April, we were shocked with the bill that we got that was $10,000 higher than the last April, but, you know, anything can happen. So I don't know if you want to just let it ride and then ask for money later if we need it, or put some in there now and not use it, or exactly what to do, but.
So we do, this, spreadsheet here. Where we kind of go through and try to estimate, how many different poll workers at different positions and what their costs are, and then we go down and we also try to estimate Atkins bills, for each election. And that's how we came up with the numbers in our budget, and actually, we've kind of cushioned those as well, tried to not be too strict on what numbers we put in there, but
So you've taken into consideration five elections.
we did not know when we did that there will be a, what is it, March election? February election. We did not know that when we
And
did
that's
the
not,
budget.
that's,
So we will have
that's
to,
not countywide though.
No, it's just public water supply, Florida being Taos and Wardsville.
Okay.
so we will have to add some additional for that additional election, because we have not estimated that in.
And in turn, some revenue back, 'cause
They'll pay for the whole election. The public water supplies pay for
Yeah.
it. It's just that we have to have the money to pay our bills, so. I think we had told them probably $5,000 or $6,000.
So do her numbers otherwise look correct? Is that for
I
the
think-
5th
I
election
think they're pretty
process?
close.
Sorry, I'm gonna flip
She
flop on
uses, she
you.
uses our figures anyway, so.
Yeah.
She just puts them in a different format, so I think I probably was a little bit high. I
So
don't
if you
know
did
I was-
250,000,
Yeah, I'm thinking.
For
we
elections, that
probably-
would pretty
we probably
much
need to
cover-
add 6 to both
Yeah.
sides, so you would add 6 to election expense on
For
the,
two, yeah.
and the election expense revenue as well for the February election.
okay.
Okay, yeah, if y'all can live with that, then.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Yeah, I don't see anything unforeseen unless Atkins, something there with them.
Okay.
It's pretty captive, you know, you pretty well have to go with them, so. Well, I stayed within my allotted time then.
Yeah, you did good.
Where's my prize? Do I get a prize? Is that it then? Is that, I mean, really, that's the only thing
Yeah.
I noticed. That-
Yeah.
Well, if Brian ever finds that deer he shot, we'll hang it over in your office.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hang it in the back room. Maybe that'll warm us up.
Put some gloves in your budget for next year.
Yeah, put the glove and hat. Thank you.
So are they warmed up a little bit?
It's hot in here, but no, it's cold in our office. It just doesn't. I asked Greg, like, we have an election room, it's just a small room in the back that has its own thermostat. I said, why can't we move that thermostat out in our office and duct those out? And he said, well, you'd have to budget the money for it. So I talked to him, if you don't mind. maybe he can do
Well, we
that.
did talk about it a little bit yesterday, cause it was like a tennis match, watching people come in and out.
Yeah.
But somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, within the next year, or so we're gonna have to kind of figure out what we're doing with the
Okay.
courtroom and everything, so hate to do.
Those are on a separate one, yeah, we might be able to do something like that and try to
Duct it into it
EMS
so we have
reimbursement.
something.
climb it and make it a
Oh,
little
yeah,
more
the in and out
bearable.
account.
Anything you can do to push Greg a little bit on my side.
EMS reimbursement account.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
this is your
All
copy.
right.
Okay,
This is your copy.
Okay.
You want
Matthew.
mine? And then this is where we need your signature.
is it Matthew? Yeah, it is Matthew.
And I'll run up and get Jennifer's. Is she in her office?
She should be up there.
Okay, and then you need to sign.
They only have an hour for you though, is that gonna be enough?
I hope it's way less than that.
This is a new document to do.
Alrighty, here we go.
Do I need to sign it?
No.
You should be, okay.
Right, and same with this, these require only one signature for the ACH.
One on four.
Electronic business, so.
Okay,
And these are your copies.
Thank you.
And I'll get you a new one of these whenever.
So that's the sales tax,
Everything's
or
signed.
whatever you want to start.
Right, I'll leave one with Kristen. I mean, with,
So here's your kind of thing.
Okay, so page 107. You go ahead, Matt. You got changes or things that need to be changed?
So I have only a few areas of concern. I think otherwise the budget is pretty well done. Chris and I worked on it, you know, in her office, to try to get as close as we could. The medical expenditures for medical supplies, a little concerned with that, based on some of the things we had to do in the last 2 months, in order to kind of keep that going. We had to move some funds out of contingency in order to keep that. So as our call volume increases, our expenditures in that realm will also continue to increase. So
Do you have a number you're thinking?
so I'm thinking that if we put another 15 in there, I think that should be good on that. And so that's the only place I think we probably need to go. And I think I originally requested, I think we were both at 180 on that. But since looking at it a little closer, I do think we need to go up a little bit on that. Good part is if we don't need it, that can always go back in because that's pretty much just it either is or isn't. And then the other one that is public relations for community involvement and doing injury prevention education. Part of the tenet of EMS is making sure that we have that involvement with the community, stop the bleed, things like that. We are one of, I believe, 3 agencies in the state that offer post credit for training officers, corrections and police officer. They get actual continuing education. We've gotten certified to do that education for them. I know we've done things at the prison. I believe we have some other officers and agencies that are asking about coming and having us do that as well. So, but we'd like to be doing that at the schools and things like that because I do believe that, for an example, active shooter stop the bleed is really where that came from. A majority of those that are able to be saved in an active shooter, if they do end up deceased, it's generally because they've extenuated or bled out. And so that's an important training that we'd like to start giving. We've done, I believe, one of the high school or middle schools so far, and we've been reaching out to do that training as well. So things like that, be able to, you know, go out there in the community and be able to, you know, have those things. One of the things that we've kicked around is doing home safety inspections before newborns come home to check to show, you know, hey, your outlets aren't covered, or hey, these are safety issues, because we would rather prevent that injury versus being just a response agency strictly. If we can prevent that, that's better for the community. So that's one of the things we've kicked around as well.
Where is that public relations under? Is that under training or?
It's not in there at the moment. This would be a new line for them.
Okay. And what was the ask for that?
So didn't we initially have one in there and we pulled it? No?
It's
Okay.
never been in there before.
Oh, I thought.
I think you did ask. I think it was in your original.
Yeah, it was in my original. asked for 8, but I could be wrong.
8,000?
Yes, sir. We did pull some money out of meetings and training aspect of things, and that was, training was the one we pulled 10 out of that. That we will be giving up a class in order to do that, but I think the classes that we have scheduled are planned with that 20. Will suffice for that aspect. The only thing that we did want to discuss, and it's more on what your thoughts are on, is if we wanted to reimburse 15. I think if we went to 8, we'd be okay on the public relations for this year. And then if we wanted to reimburse current employees for paramedic school, once they completed and offered a certificate, offered their license, then we would reimburse them for a commitment of service. So it would be, if we, pay your $7,000 paramedic school, you give us 3 years on a prorated basis. We can't do a 3 or nothing. That basically becomes an indentured servant, basically, under the law, is my understanding. So we would have to prorate that out. But my opinion is it's better to homegrown your paramedics. If you have good EMTs, generally they're committed to the organization and the mission that we do. And so if we're able to do that, that's great. If we can't, I understand. But I have had several employees ask, would the county be willing to reimburse them if they went to paramedic school? Currently, the EMTs make approximately $31,000. So for them to put that $7,000 out there, it is a significant amount of their pay already. So just something to consider. But otherwise, I think we're good on that. I know in one of our requests for positions was that logistics officer that we had, and we shifted it to a training. We did find that to be a cost-saving aspect this year. We had David doing that before he got promoted. We'd like to see that. On our initial request, we also had an additional administrative assistant. We've pulled that out to try to stay within that budget process. So if we can do the logistics, I think that would be a fair compromise. But other than that, I think we're pretty satisfied with what Kristen and I were able to come up with.
I'm gonna go back to logistics.
Yes,
That
sir.
one we had in last year's budget, right?
We did, and then.
So it's just an open position.
It's not, so we
Yeah.
moved that over to the training, so we made that one the training because we had some
Okay.
training items that we found were deficient, and so, that position is still much needed in training. So we'd like to keep that and then add that logistics officer back in. The logistics officer takes care of the fleet maintenance, they take care of the station stuff. There's a lot of times where, other departments aren't able to support, and so that individual ends up doing some maintenance work as well. They are in charge of the supply order and finding the best pricing. Anytime that we purchase anything, that individual is the first person that goes through that process. So David was very successful and saved us a lot of money, and we believe that would be a way to continue to help keep those costs down.
Yeah, that was the one problem I had when we moved David up, was he was doing such a good job
He was.
as logistics officer. I'm like,
He was, and there's just too much work to have him remain focused on that, so.
So my budget does include a logistics officer, so one added position. Something else we need to talk about is the salary scales that were originally adopted did not have a salary scale for his administrative staff. We have included them with the same percentage as other employees, so they're not on a step schedule like the rest of them are at the moment. Matt did propose some schedules for them, but right now we just have them in there as a percentage.
And for that, I can pull it up. I didn't realize that, I'm sorry. Let me pull those steps.
So you have the logistics officer in your budget?
Yes, sir, that is in there.
No.
Yes, that was in there.
okay.
So one added position.
You didn't have the admin assistant in there then?
No,
No, we
he
pulled that.
removed it before.
I removed it when we were talking, I removed that.
Okay.
$61,500. Plus benefits, that's how. They're up on the screen, Matt.
Oh, thanks.
Do you have that stuff somewhere?
I thought I sent
No.
that.
Do you have it out on the drive somewhere, or?
I do not know.
I mean, like,
I thought he sent it to you all, did he not?
I thought I did, but if not, I
Okay.
may not have.
It is, it's not department request.
yeah, I couldn't find any EMS department request stuff.
You couldn't find it.
Mm.
Probably need to give you access to it so you can put all the stuff out there too. Cause I don't get much of it since.
Can you just put it out on the,
I can't, I don't have access to your F.
She
I
Oh.
don't, I can't.
I don't think you have it going to Jeff.
Okay, hold on.
So I'll ask Brian. So she can ask it too.
Wrong Jeff.
I talked to Joe.
Now you should have it.
you can pull it back up.
So, he also proposed creating supervisor of training. Is that what the title was? It's not in there as well either. Supervisor of training.
For the training for the,
Have a different title.
So your current training officer bumping
oh,
her up.
so her current position, so this is the nurse that we hired, one of the nurses we hired that's in charge of training. She's the chief of training. And so, right now, we have them listed equal, but she is technically a division head within the department. And so she would be in third in line, that should something happen, or if David and I are unavailable, she's the one that would take over the department in that process. So, through the lines of succession, she would be third in that process. And so if you can scroll down just a little.
Is she the one that has the trauma and
Logistics.
She's a flight nurse.
the flight?
No, so that's, she's actually a field medic, the flight
Okay.
nurse is. She was the one that's currently in there, in that spot. She, worked at Capital Region. She was actually a part-time paramedic for us, and was a full-time, RN over at Cap Region, BSN actually. And came over to do, the training with us and the training chief position. So, with that, we'd like to push her salary up, her added responsibilities and things like that. So what we did is we kept the battalion chief the same. The training officer would remain the same in line with the battalion chief. The chief of training would then be, so again, she'd be kind of that third person in the tier. And then creating a step for the deputy chief position as well. I'll tell you that, it's David currently, but the individual in there, and David is putting in a ton of hours, like the rest of us. But, I mean, he's underpaid for what he's doing, in my opinion. So we'd like to, appropriately compensate him. Generally, the way I've seen a lot of agencies is there's a $10,000 gap between the different levels of positions. So that's what we've tried to do as much as possible to create that equity with the command staff. I did not request a raise last year nor this year, and more so to try to take care of, those below me. And then if you scroll down some more.
That's the top of the scale. What do you want?
Is there, the rest of the scales are on there too, right?
They're at the top, but those are the
Oh,
ones
okay,
that
so-
are already,
So the only other one was the admin assistant. We didn't have a scale for her. And so we felt that we needed to at least put a scale in for her as well.
I think that one's gonna be hard because we have administrative assistants in other departments that are not getting this kind of jump in their pay at this kind of rate. I mean, you can argue that he has positions that are not in other departments. That administrative assistant position is in multiple departments.
The amount of difference between each level.
I think I was already getting that same thing with the marshal's pay that they were wanting to get for their admin assistant.
Right.
That was more than.
Right.
So. And there are differences,
There are,
but still.
I know last year she didn't get a raise when the rest of the department did, and so she didn't get the raise that, because it was EMS wide, got the earliest, you know, when we adopted that. She was excluded from the raise last year because, she was considered part of EMS, so she didn't get that percentage last year.
it was a flat dollar last year.
Or a flat dollar, she didn't get that added in to hers last year, and so we're trying to make up for that part of it because she was overlooked in that process. And so we would like to try to make that more equitable, and at least, you know, retro.
So we just missed that then?
Huh?
Did we just miss that then?
Well,
If she
so
wasn't in on the rest of the raises, then.
it was more of the fact that we made those changes in October and it was said EMS wouldn't
Right.
have any changes January 1st.
But we
So
didn't adjust hers at all, so she probably should have been qualified
should,
for the.
probably should have gotten the COLA, yes, but it was, yes,
How long
not
she was there?
included.
Yeah,
Or at that
I mean,
time?
I understand how that.
She was there.
She was there before I got there, it was like 7 months or 8 months.
I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that.
So she should have gotten the flat 520 that was given last year as a COLA.
That's, yeah, I would think so.
What all the other administrative assistants.
So I understand keeping them, you know, throughout the county, you know, similar. I would just like to, if we can, either retro back to make that up for her, or moving forward, adjust that to, over time, make that back up to her. And I didn't know that it had been overlooked either until a few months ago when she brought that up, so.
So I'm a little concerned at some of the jumps. Like deputy chief, the jump between starting and step 1 is pretty significant.
Where's that one?
Right, oh, sorry, it's the gray.
So I believe that's what he's making now, and so that was what, or the first step, isn't, even what we were, at with when Steve was in that position. So we were trying to slowly make that more equitable of that separation, when I'm not here, or, you know, I mean, he fills in, you know, in my absence, or, and to be honest, even outside of my absence, I mean, he's doing a ton of work. That position is, you know, very much needed. So, you know, the two big ones are the training, you know, the chief of training and the deputy chief, I think, are the two big ones that we would like to see, you know, adequately compensated for what their job entails and their qualifications that they bring as well.
Are all of these changes then?
No,
So the chief of training, the deputy chief, and the administrative assistant are new pay charts that he's proposing. The other ones are currently in place.
So do we have a good
No,
training
there's not a battalion chief one either.
officer?
There's-
Cause I know we were having
Can I just the
we
orange
were
one?
having issues before, so.
I'm sorry, sir.
Our training's
Oh, yeah.
gotten better and,
So we're still trying to find that second training officer.
Okay.
We thought we had identified one, and then the pay wasn't enough, for what, you know, we were gonna pay them at that, I think it was 61.5. So that's been our challenge with that position, is the starting pay. So we've actually gone through and had we've presented 3 offers, and, all of you rejected once we discussed pay. So that was an issue with the training officer, that second training officer. So we're having some difficulty finding that. Without going into too much detail, I think that a bad training officer can have some pretty big impacts on things. So we were trying to find that right person and, you know, get that person. We don't want to make a mistake in that hire, I guess is the right way to put it. So the answer to your question is our process is improving. Jessie, who's in that spot, is doing a great job as the chief of training. She is overwhelmed with the amount of things that we're having to do. We've gone back and found that training records hadn't been kept adequately for 4 and 5 years. So she's going in and trying to find all those things. Continuing education certificates had not been issued or appropriately documented. We found out that there were training things where they weren't meeting the state. They were performing the courses, but they weren't doing the pre-work that the state requires us to do in order to issue those training education, continuing education things. All of that, we're having to go back, see if we can find the information, put it together. We've actually been bringing in one of our part-time paramedics that recently was full-time, went part-time for family reasons. We brought her in occasionally to help Jessie try to keep her head above water in that process. So she's absolutely worth every penny that we're proposing on that. And what she brings to the table, being a BSN, and if we start looking at that critical care aspect, she brings that aspect into that training piece as well. So that one, the two that are the most important that I would fight for the hardest would be the chief of training and the deputy chief, at least somewhere in that scale. If we need to revise that a little bit or look at it, but I do feel like we need to adequately compensate them. I understand the administrative assistant part of that, but I do, if we can't put her on a scale, then I think we do need to either retro back the fact that she didn't get that, or adjust it to where she's making a little bit more to make that up in the future, because I don't think we were equitable in that. The other aspect of that is the time it takes to train and to get these individuals up to speed. Should one of them leave, it'll actually yearly cost us more in order to do that. So we don't want them to leave either.
You guys have questions?
I don't know, I'm trying to follow on that chart to see where it is now and what the difference is
So
between.
right now,
both.
so
Did you
Jesse-
email that to us?
So
I
Jess,
emailed you, yes.
so Jesse right now
No, I got
makes,
the chart.
Oh.
so right now Jesse makes 61.5 as being in charge of
I have
that
access to the
division.
original chart.
And then I believe the deputy
So-
chief is at
So
76.
chief of training is at 61.5.
Correct. And so she would be making the same as the
I'm
person
not
she
putting
was
names in there, I'm just saying that
responsible
position.
to lead.
Right, so currently she would fall into
The training.
the second column.
Right. So the grade column is where she's currently,
Okay, gotcha.
and her subordinate would be making the same as what she was making.
Well, currently, right now, they would be the same title, so you would be creating a title of chief of training, right?
Well, so she has that title within the department. I mean, one has to be responsible for the other. I mean, having two of equal, then I don't think that's probably the right way to go about that, because you have to have somebody that is ultimately responsible for that division within our department.
And I don't think they're exempt at the moment.
They are exempt at the moment. They've been exempt since I've been here.
No,
No, they're not.
they're earning overtime.
They're not a salary, they're an hourly rate.
Well, they've been exempt.
Maybe you're not working them full-time. They don't work full-time.
Well, then we'll need to go back because they have been strictly an 8-hour because So if
We can have that job description reevaluated.
Okay. So
I'm
if
not
that's the
sure
case,
they
then
would
we
not
need to,
fall.
we need to go back and look at that scale, because right now they've been only put in as exempt because we've been adjusting that they work. We try to adjust their hours as much as we can, but we have not been putting overtime in for them, because when we initially proposed, we had them as exempt. So if that's not the case, then we need to go back and fix that.
You may be right. Do we have it
They're
as
listed in
or
salary.
overtime?
When we do our pay, like, it's submitted as salary. So like when it's in BSNA, it says salary.
The one of them is, yes.
Yes.
So there's 3 of them right now.
So the battalion chiefs are not salary, they were hourly, but the
Right,
training
right.
and logistics would be
I
salary.
didn't think training was.
Yeah.
I knew the other one was.
I'm thinking
Training is
logistics.
too. Okay.
Yeah, those both should be, because they're listed under salary when we go to do the pay, like in BSA, so.
Then
If
yes,
they have
they are.
salary on it.
Thank
Yes.
you. Okay, so they were salary, that's what I thought, but if not, we can fix that then.
You're wanting to take the current training officer that you have now and make her the chief of training?
Correct, so she's currently the one that's responsible for the training division, so when we are able to identify that second one, so that's, the idea is that she would be the third in succession. You know, should David and I have to go to a conference, she would run the department, or should we both, he have an issue, or one of us no longer here, and as that progression and movement within the department. What we found was, because there was no adequate oversight, we had some issues that we had to address earlier in the year. And so we wanted to make sure that that doesn't repeat itself.
So do you have any of this in your budget, Kristen, or?
I do not, like I said, for,
You just have a percentage raise?
I have a percentage raise for anyone
For all
that's in
these
the
people.
administrative.
For those two individuals, right? Because the
For the deputy chief,
For
for
the
the
deputy chief and
training,
the-
for battalion chiefs, for,
Yes.
battalion
Yeah.
chief should have been in there, because they've always been on a step. The only people that weren't on steps would be David and I.
And
Jesse.
the admin assistant.
And the admin assistant, correct. Jesse already had a step scale, we're just trying to change the scale for her. So, right, she's making that 61.5 now.
They didn't have a scale.
Who didn't have a scale?
Your training and logistics.
Training and logistics were under the same scale as battalion chiefs.
I don't think that was in there before.
So are the chief of training and training officer, logistics, are they gonna be a step above battalion chief, or they
No,
come
same.
down and step over here in the same?
So the logistics and the training officer would be on the same battalion chief, because that's how we had it structured last year.
Where's
The
the scale?
chief of training would be, so she would basically be stepping out of that pay scale and into her own pay scale.
She'd be third in line, so then she would be over top of battalion chiefs and training
Correct.
officer.
Correct.
Okay.
Where's the logistics officer fit in that
That
then?
battalion chief, like in that pay scale. So if you look on even on that scale, it says, if you look at the scale of logistics and training, it's the exact same scale as a battalion chiefs. We just wanted to break them out, like on title, but they're the exact same scales. And one of the issues are that, you know, because we have had them salary, that they're not making, you know,
Yes.
they don't have that overtime capability. So we have paramedics that are making more than those individuals in those positions because they have overtime opportunity. So we're just, like I said, we're trying to balance that as best we can.
Kind of a choice they get to make though.
I'm sorry.
Kind of a choice they get to make though, if they want to have a 48-hour shift or 24-hour shift, have overtime and.
It is.
Make it, or do they want something more, I guess I'll call it stable, and, you know.
More of a Monday
8-hour
through Friday,
shifts,
sure.
So, you know, there's gotta be some trade-off there too.
We may
Not
have
that I
done
like to argue.
the training chief wrong. I think percentage instead of the steps.
I'm sorry.
I said we may have done the training chief wrong, but we did a percentage instead of the step, I'm pretty sure.
It's like where it says assistant chief,
Right.
that was what their title was previously, but those are the battalion chief positions currently. So they, for whatever reason, they called them assistant chiefs, but they run their shift, that's a battalion chief for us. So we can clean up that position titles there to make sure that they're adequately listed.
So we did percentages for the chief, deputy chief, battalion chief of training, and the financial assistant. Cause those were the 4 proposed pay scales that were not approved previously.
And if we need to not raise mine in order to facilitate one of the others, I'm okay with that.
Oh, damn it.
You have a cell phone? Sorry, Sam, I had to go there.
Was there anything else in your budget, or
No, I
do we
think,
wanna go to capital? Unless you guys wanna make a decision on that now, or wait?
Oh, I'm still thinking on it. Not really wanting to have another position.
If you go to page 104, I think that's where we've kind of landed with capital. There's the list.
You just like doing that, don't you?
I still wouldn't mind sometime putting
I'm
in
gonna fall asleep.
like scholarships for paramedics. Even if we did like 2 a year or something.
Show me where you're cutting it from.
I don't
He was
know.
gonna donate it to Sam Bushman Memorial Scholarship.
I will
I
tell
might do
you,
one.
we worked really hard to cut down the budget to
I know,
get to where
I
we
know,
were,
I know.
so
I think
if-
somewhere
if you're adding.
somewhere down the road.
Yeah,
Because thing is, if you can keep them for 3 years, then, because it seems like paramedics, you know, it's,
there's a nationwide shortage.
yeah, it's,
Is Joe
Um,
working on
what is it, about a year's
that?
training?
Some kind of contract?
So we would have a contract, so we've got that available. We do that now.
So
with
that's
the
what we need to do
dispatchers.
with,
They have to stay
yeah,
a certain amount of time, and if not, they have to
Stay on
miss the
track.
training.
yes, ma'am.
So,
Aye, aye, sir.
She came up with
I think it was based on, I think what the sheriff does for his, and she changed it to meet the needs for us.
any questions on capital stuff? Page 104 has the list.
So under the capital request on those 3 ambulances there, since they ended up costing 192, you can take, you know, that number there drops. That's from what's listed there. So that's roughly 38,000 a piece that drops off of that.
Do you have any upfit to do to those once they get here, though?
So we will have a little bit, but some of that will come out of our current ones that we're gonna deadline. So there'll be one that will need a kind of the upfit, but I thought we had put that in there. So we have for the dispatch radios for vehicles, there's one already in there for that.
Okay.
And I think the Sierra Wireless, so we probably need to add a second one into the Sierra Wireless there. Cause that was just based on 2, so we need to put another 3,200 for that. But everything else, and then as far as putting in the stretcher, mount, I believe that came out to $1,500 this last year for each one, so that would be the only other thing per truck, so. Make sure that's not in there. Yeah, so that would be it, so it would be 1,500 times 3, I believe it is. That should be it. And so under the turnout and bulletproof vest, on those items specifically, under like the bulletproof vest, that's only if we were to get an employee that didn't fit in some of the ones, like if somebody leaves and we've got to properly fit them because we just don't have that size, that's what that is in there for. We don't suspect that'll happen, but we did want to include that just in case. We did have the same thing for turnout gear. It looks like that was pulled.
So turnout gear is still encumbered from 19.
Because we have a few still remaining, so I think we're, that's right, because I think we're okay with that, so, I'm okay with that not being in there.
And anything that's still encumbered this year will go into next year that we haven't paid, so that would be additional to this total.
Are you guys good with me changing the ambulance amount to 192 apiece?
Yes.
Well,
So it go to 576 instead of 690?
and then the first watch, that was encumbered already, that's encumbered, but we should be paying that here. I mean, we could probably issue a check next week if we wanted to, so it didn't roll over, because they just approved that.
Well, there'd be a payment in 20 then as well, wouldn't
That would be under maintenance, and it's like $2,000.
It moves to his operating budget once it goes to just an annual
I see.
maintenance.
So that would technically come out if we paid it ahead of time, or it rolls forward, but that wouldn't be something that's not new money, I guess is the way to put that. And same thing with the turnout gear, so that 24,000 and that 19, so roughly 20,000 and 25,000, those are encumbered, from the current budget that would roll forward. So, was that 55,000 roughly would come off that 297 that's sitting there for capital. 55 of that is
it?
our.
You needed to add 3,200 back in for Sierra Wireless, right?
Correct, sir.
And another 4,500 for striker mounts.
Correct.
Okay, why am I not seeing Sierra Wireless?
Sierra Wireless is the 4th one down,
Yeah, my list in here is different.
or
than
3rd
that
one down, I'm sorry. Oh, you just passed it.
Why do I not have anything in there?
It was there. Sarah, that's the antenna.
It's gotta be.
Can you filter through like department requested? Maybe that'll kind of move stuff out of the way.
Well, so my list doesn't match yours, doesn't match the list in here, why is that? Oh, cause that striker payment's somewhere else. Okay. So.
So John, who won last night? You or the mayor?
I don't wanna talk about it.
Did you take your phone through the,
No, I did my watch.
Oh, I have it combined
You're
together.
gonna have to work on
The
this a little harder next
Sirens
year
and
then.
the
Was it
Sierra
that bad?
Wireless are all lumped together
Oh,
there.
okay.
I know, you were right up here yesterday, you talked about it a little bit, and did you walk out here without even a dime? Now I feel bad.
I gave him,
So are you
I'll get
guys,
over it, but I mean, I feel bad.
are you guys good with adding an additional Sierra Wireless and then the 1,500 for the striker cot mounts?
And that would be ×3 on those. For the 1,500 ×3.
Right.
mhm.
So he was eliminating a few things, right?
Well, the ambulances are less than.
Right, we
Right.
dropped the ambulance, so it'd be an additional 7,700 total.
But weren't we, were we gonna pay this first watch, first pass thing at 24,788, or?
If you do, then you'd have to just reduce contingency then.
Well, no, I think that's already, was in, wasn't already, that was encumbered in the capital already.
So that one's encumbered in there, so either way, you're either
Right.
gonna pay it this year or you're gonna pay it next year.
The money's already still sitting there from this year, cause we'd encumbered that like in April or something.
I'm good with adding the 3,200 for the Sierra Wireless and the 4,500 for the COTS.
Somebody
We
else?
gotta have them for
Yeah.
it.
I'm fine,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm gonna add
Yeah.
that 7,700.
So you got that response vehicle. Are we getting rid of something?
So this one, so we can get rid of one of the old Explorers, I think it is, or Ford Focus, or not Focus.
How many we have right now? 3?
We have 4.
4.
The one is the one that we had discussed about giving over to Greg, I think
Yeah.
was looking for one. So one of our things is we try to move equipment and stuff, we don't have a vehicle to move large items. So, you know, not necessarily supplies, but, you know, the big items that won't
Well,
fit
if
the
you
back
have
of
a
a
whole
Tahoe.
stretcher or something.
Right, and the Tahoe, they're gonna have command boxes in them, so that's not space you can use anyway, so we don't have anything within the department to move big items. And so that would ultimately be assigned to.
But we are eliminating one of them.
We would pass that over to.
We're eliminating it. Whether
From
we
our
pass it
Yeah,
to somebody
yeah,
or we
yeah.
Correct.
throw it in a ditch.
From our department.
And the pickup, they can still use as a quick response, cause it'll be a supervisor,
Correct, so we.
be a supervisor.
How much more stuff are you gonna need to outfit it with?
So we have
35,000,
everything,
Is that,
so we already have that listed in there, so like the vehicle.
that's all in there with,
Yes, sir.
okay.
And I think that the incident command, my hope is to get them lower than that per. We gotta do a little build and design. We've had a hard time getting somebody to design it and then, but not be able to guarantee them that that's who we would go with. So they gotta do CAD drawings and all of that. So we've had a hard time trying to find somebody to do that without basically saying, you design it, we're going with you. And so we would probably bid that out with a build design aspect to try to get that going. But I'm hoping that it comes in less than that, but
So does the truck need to be a quick response vehicle or can it be a truck?
it should be a quick response vehicle because we can
Should
dual
be.
use it.
I would rather it be a quick response.
Because you're gonna have a paramedic in there, so if we put the equipment in there,
Maybe not, the administrative assistant can go pick up your boxes of
She drives,
whatever. And,
I don't know if that's a good idea.
I mean, for whatever reason, it can be anybody.
So anyone
Even
could
your
drive.
logistics officer does not have to be a paramedic. It could be somebody that's good with organizational skills and good with, vehicle maintenance.
So
So it doesn't have to be and it doesn't even have to be paid that much. We could put
but
that position, even in lower position, non-supervisory, and
you could, but if I told them I needed to order XYZ medication and they're negotiating medication, if they order the wrong concentration because they don't understand the drugs or something like that, I would be concerned of having somebody that's responsible, because once you order them, you can't return that stuff. Because,
there's not a UPC code or something, I mean, it's very specific.
so there's nationwide shortage, so an example, epi to 1 to 10,000 in a pre-filled syringe is currently in a nationwide back order.
-1 or -2?
Yeah, right. So they're on a nationwide back order. If I said, hey, you need to find an alternative of how we're going to do that, that individual needs to understand that you would take epi 1 to 10 or 1 to 1,000, dilute it out, and then be able to create that, and they have to be able to understand those processes and what that entails. So I would be concerned, not that we couldn't, but that lack of knowledge
We
is.
need a chemist now.
no, but it's like the first lieutenant, you need somebody who can do everything.
I would,
Um,
not saying you can't, I would say I would be concerned if you did.
I understand.
I wasn't really taking into consideration your order and stuff.
Is there any other questions about the capital stuff to talk about? Or
I
just?
mean, we're not approving any of that, it's just the list, right?
Yeah, so maybe come back in January and he can talk about which ones he wants to go with first and what bids we want to put out, just like our capital.
Yeah, I don't think I have any more questions on it.
We tried to keep it as low as we could on that. I mean, you guys made a good investment into the county this year, and so we've tried to keep that much lower.
Well, we addressed a lot of things that may have been insufficient last year, so.
You're bringing us up into the 21st century,
We're
man.
doing
I
our
tell
best,
you.
sir. Any other questions for me on anything in the budget?
Nope, I think that's it.
I appreciate your time.
45 minutes?
10:30. She's not coming.
We, as our dispatch, don't get any more
We can talk later.
Take it
positions.
5 or 10
Still
minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I take that back.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, so,
Well,
let me, I'm gonna get Rick a cup of coffee. John would leave, we can start stealing back from him.
Just because.
okay, that would be awesome, sir.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
We may still be on here. Yeah. Just thought I'd let you know. You wanna talk somewhere else?
No,
No?
I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Holly's coming down with the log, and
Oh,
I called Joe, and he's gonna be here by 10:30. So I
Okay.
may have gotten Joe in here too early, but he'll just have to wait.
Okay, she brought this back over too, cause she said she sent it to wherever they needed to send it to, but this is a new form. They wouldn't accept the old W-9. So, yeah, I need you to sign it, but then Karen said, on the last one, you just check the box exempt, but we don't have a code, do we? That we're exempt?
No.
Well, I don't know what you fill out right there.
These are cute little packets. Here. I mean, they really are good. That's why I brought them, because we didn't have as many kids.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, they're, what's Halloween pretzels? They're shaped like,
Pumpkin?
no. Here. See, it's a bat. They're not bad.
They're not that good.
Um,
Good morning, Sam.
good morning.
How are you guys?
Somehow got lost in an avalanche of emails.
I will keep asking, probably. I know you will. Are those chairs?
They're not that bad, huh?
No.
I don't have your reports. We've been in budget meeting.
Or would you rather have a Tootsie Roll? I have Tootsie
No,
Roll
I don't like
from Knights of
Tootsie
Columbus.
I don't like those pretzels.
Did you try, Jeff's has his up there.
His are up here?
Yeah. It's
What?
Christina. He was gonna leave them in here for today.
Okay, do we have the bottle on there?
Oh,
There's the good pretzels, yeah.
I like these.
Actually,
Those look
There's
like
good
airplanes.
pretzels and bad pretzels?
haven't, but Miranda was gonna address that.
Jeff had made some.
These have seasoning on them.
Oh.
Oh.
Depends on what kind of seasoning are on them.
Italian.
Okay.
Yeah.
I make a,
I
my,
don't,
my kids love
Brenda's
it's a
got
spicy
the,
garlic one.
open one upstairs.
That has, that's spicy. Apparently the guys up in Columbia say it goes very good with beer.
A lot of that salty,
Yeah.
spicy stuff.
Yeah, they really, yeah.
Yeah, ask my son, ask my 21-year-old.
They.
Yeah, we're still on. We're still on.
It's all right.
You can say how wonderful we are and how you love us and love life.
Well, he used to be Christina Bingley.
See, I shouldn't have eaten those.
They're addictive.
Yeah.
I just have to read through. Garfish or That's that brand. Pretzel, I think it is.
What did you say they were?
He didn't. He just smelled it with a square.
I like those.
Just in case. Anyway, they were going on and on about how you need to have that now because in the past there's been, I'm just trying to,
We'll find someone to do it. for you.
okay.
Is there any chance of me or is there a reason Joe's?
I'm good with that.
Ask them, I'm not involved in it.
Are you ready to go right after her?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Is Joe
Okay.
here?
We're gonna move things around a little.
Okay. Whatever you say.
That would be fantastic. I don't think ours will take too terribly long.
Okay.
As long as Sam Nancy's dead, mine won't take long either.
Don't you think you need to put a red high-performance vehicle in your fleet so that if there's something, you need to get there quickly? Like a red Corvette.
I was gonna say the Batmobile, but I'll go with the red Corvette.
There's so many uses.
I would just take it like a.
We can see if we can get a sweet deal on one right now.
Yeah. Well, they're allocated 15, I think, for 2020. I think they've got 13 of them sold. So we have to operate pretty
So you
quickly.
said
But
you're gonna eat some of those?
Oh, yeah.
One of my,
I didn't eat breakfast
one
and
of
now
my
I'm just
friends,
hungry. It's gonna make me hangry.
his family owns the Laura
More?
dealership up in St.
I
Louis.
don't get hungry till like.
And I guess
start
all
getting
theirs
hungry
are
till
already
2 o'clock.
accounted for.
Yeah.
They're already sold out of the
yeah,
No hardwood.
we'll see if we can
They're yummy.
if we can put that in your budget. Then
One of these
I don't
days,
know,
we'll
but
get you that.
we need the recipe.
Alright, thanks, Chief.
Jeff, we need the recipe.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, I took a picture of the stuff so I could give that to y'all.
Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome. Send one to
Th-
them.
they wouldn't share 'em with me.
And what was the brand of pretzel again?
Hold on.
Those are the ones people make those little roll.
Snyder's.
The Rolo?
Oh, those are good.
Snyder's,
Snyder.
Snaps pretzels, and then it's good seasoned zesty Italian dressing,
That's it? And oil?
and half cup oil. And then I use other seasonings and experiment with different things too, and a
I've got
pound
one,
of
I'll
salt.
show you too.
A pound or so.
Yeah, I do literally, I
Did
get the
you-
big
you
giant
just
salt
use
on it, it's awesome.
Can you just send that to me?
So it's so big.
Cause I won't remember.
I'll send it to you.
It's just my kids.
Okay.
Holly is on page 69. So you go ahead, Holly, if you got changes you wanna make, or
Where do you wanna start at?
Whatever you don't.
wherever.
You wanna do the materials and supplies, the easy stuff first?
Okay.
Sure.
Um, Looking, my differences with, between mine and Kristen's, communications should be fine. The service equipment that one should be fine. The meeting travel's fine. The mileage, that Kristen has might be a little bit low. But I have accomplished, in Callaway County, that I will not be going to Callaway County as much. I really been able to, the presiding commissioner has worked with me, and I'm gonna cut 3 to 4 trips down a month over there, so.
So right now your mileage is only at 2,600. Since we cut down an attorney, it's really dropped because we're only really paying yours.
Okay, so I've stayed in that? Okay,
Uh-huh.
I just thought that your projected might be, that's my actual.
Tell Mr. Youngerman, thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
he has a county vehicle, you know.
He has multiple county vehicles,
I know that he drives.
but it's, so I asked him about that. It's for everybody, for planning and,
Plus, that's where
He
a
just-
red Corvette could.
well, you could go take Greg's truck.
I broke down once on the way to Callaway County and had to be rescued by a staff member. My alternator went out halfway.
Okay, we'll keep going.
Mopeds for
We'll
everybody.
keep going.
Okay, the helmet, overall,
Scooter.
there you go.
I'm looking down the rest of the thing, all under materials and supplies, that should be okay. Rich, under the contractual services, I mainly use Rich Zard, so you guys don't have to pay county, time. I use Rich for most stuff. Which isn't just that much. Usually we can figure out our problems ourselves. Okay. When we go under, for the personnel services, we experimented this year and that, I interviewed to replace Amanda Linder, but, for the salary, the salary that I had and the people that were interviewing for it, I I decided just to try to see if I could do it myself. And it's worked out, especially since Callaway's working with me to keep my court dates down. I've given my staff some more like paralegal type work, and we've gone 10 months now, we've been able to keep up. I know we talked last year about the indirect costs that the county gets above whatever their total cost that my office expends out a year. That had been going down because I was having to dip into it to pay for that additional attorney. At Amanda's last salary, with all the benefits and the health insurance and paying some, plus the increase in the retirement cost there, her position with all the fringes on it's like $70,000 a year. So, and I haven't gotten any increases in the state budget in a long time, but they haven't cut me. And I got my new budget for this year, and they still haven't cut me. And I talked with them, and they don't see anything in the near future, any reason to cut what my budget is. And I'm not spending the whole budget, so I should next year be able to, and I did this year, get all the indirect costs. And I haven't done November's reimbursement yet, and obviously not December's yet, but I'm estimating that the profit above what our expenses are is about, should be between 25 and 26,000. And I'm willing to go ahead and not replace that person, but, and in taking on the additional work, I believe that I should receive more benefit for doing that. I know we talked about it last year, but we put off doing it, and I talked with Mr. Thompson about it, and I believe, let him speak for himself.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, Holly has taken on more work, and with the calculation that we've made, I see no issue if the commission would like to give her a raise.
And I'm willing to just take on that extra work, and I would like to put out there that I believe my staff deserves also a little bit more, because I have given them additional duties. They're very well qualified. They do paralegal type work, and they do intense supervision with defendants, working as like probation officers, because we do not have probation officers supervising all of our defendants on the non-sport caseload. It's kind of specialized work, and probation and parole just doesn't have the time to do it. So we do not use their services at all on our caseload. So they supervise on that. And also, you guys know I've been around here a long time. I've gone through a lot of prosecutors, and I've seen a lot of assistant prosecutors come and go, and a lot of new assistant prosecutors come and go. Amanda's one of our new ones. But all the years, and it used to be years ago, the county we used to have a thing where they made 60,000, 40 to 60 on what my office did years ago. That's before your guys' time. But with that 25,000, I'm putting out there, and I talked briefly with Locke about that I would like to propose to the commission to use, instead of that money just going straight to general revenue for general revenue purposes, I would like to see that money go towards either salaries or bonuses for especially the young assistant prosecutors in our office, because they're having such a hard time retaining them. I've seen so many of them come and go. I know personally that Amanda, who worked for me, almost went to the AG's office. I know if she would have lived on the other side of town where she's living at now, that Boone County wanted her for a child support position, because I was approached I said, no, I'm not doing it. Well, would, you know anybody else that wanted to, and they would have, but, she didn't want to commute because where she lives at. But if she lived up in the Ashland area, it would have been because of what they pay more, and losing, the AG's office, and we've just seen so many of them come and go, that's what I would like to see done with that money, to maybe retain, because the cases, I mean, it used to be, back in my old days, we would have a couple murders a year, a couple of serious 8 felonies a year, but the amount that they're seeing now, I mean, to have prosecutors that don't have it, that much experience handling those cases fresh out of law school. And if you want to get the assistants who are in the top part of their class, the top quarter or top third, you're not gonna get those with the kind of the salaries that these are. And once they invest all the time in training them, that's when somebody else steals them away. And that's what I would like to see. And I'm sure Mr. Thompson's in agreement with me in trying to retain some of the staff that he's put the effort into training this year. Thoughts?
So just a little background. So currently my proposed does include that additional attorney. So that is still in there. It was not eliminated yet.
And that leaves with no indirect cost. I mean, basically, you're not gonna be getting indirect costs anymore. I could use, I mean, a part-time person. I'm not gonna say I could use a part-time person, but if you pay somebody, like myself or somebody that has some experience, they can do the job because of, if you work it right and manage how you do the courts, and it's just getting along well with all the different judges. And I've worked for a year with Kevin Crane and Sue Crane, two of the judges over there in Callaway County. And now my felony cases, instead of going in front of 4 circuit judges 4 times a month, they're gonna transfer them into Sue Crane, who's gonna supervise them. And she has given me a designated docket times that is only my caseload, and I'm not sitting there waiting for all the other cases. In Cole County, we do designated child support docket days where I go in and do all my stuff in one fell swoop, and then I'm not appearing in front of the other judges too much. And that works as long, you've got to along with your judges and not get cross with any of them, but.
So in the past, if you look back at like 19's budget, everything Holly brought in got paid out. So it was a balanced budget. Everything she spent got reimbursed. Going forward, if she would eliminate that attorney position, she now has some room to where she can get indirect costs back on that grant because she's not spending every dollar they're assigning to her. So she can claim the indirect costs based on our cost allocation.
And it's 10% of whatever I spend that month. Like this year, like what they've given me in my budget, I'm not gonna spend quite all of it, so that money, I'm honestly not gonna get it, but then the state will give it to another prosecutor's office. Because not all prosecutor's office get indirect costs, only ones that were set up early and got it approved early on have that in their budgets, and so some prosecutors run out of money. So that can be used to help fellow prosecutors, but I will get reimbursed 100% this year and get 100% reimbursement cost, 10% of what my total I spend for the year.
So she brings in excess dollars.
Yes, I'm bringing the excess dollar. And next year I will bring in 10% more if I don't hire another attorney. If we don't hire another attorney and continue to do things, I will bring in the 25 or more. And I didn't spend a lot this year, so 25, 26, it may be more next year. Depends on, if, I got computers last year. But if I have more expenses, and then it would be more.
So do we have a proposed amount of increase for Holly, or?
I had not come up with a proposed amount.
Okay.
Certainly, obviously, like I said, she is doing more work, and I think a raise is certainly appropriate.
Okay.
What position are we not filling? Is it legal assistant or?
It's an attorney.
PA one?
APA position.
one, okay.
Which when I had it filled, I went back and what it cost me last year for Ms. Landon's spot, and it was right a few hundred shy of 70,000 what it cost with her she was making 52, 53 maybe, so basically a beginning salary, you know, at the time, position.
Get us something that is kind of what you think her additional duties are worth, so.
Yeah, I'd be happy to sit down with Holly and we can draft something up for you guys in that regard. Can have that to you by next week's meeting if you'd like.
So are you gonna take some of that?
That, no, the
Divvy it up
indirect,
with
the
your other-
indirect cost, I mean, that won't be for my salary. My salary will be 100% reimbursed. What I'm proposing with the indirect cost is using it for trying to keep
Well,
assistant
I'm just
prosecutors
looking at
in the main office.
The salary is like, what, 50,000?
Bless you.
The starting salary is for.
It was
It's
51.
rough. I'm just gonna
51,
use-
so with the fringes.
I'm just gonna use a round number of 50, so obviously you're not gonna propose a $50,000 raise for. Are you
No,
gonna
no,
look at
no.
trying to divvy that up among the other APAs since they're
No.
gonna be doing more work?
That
and
money
still
can
save
only
money?
be spent
Well,
for child support.
Right.
Well, you, under 168, there's, I got, well, 4 of y'all, not counting the one that's still open, right?
All right, so there's 4 employees.
So you're looking at.
Right, but
oh,
only 2.
But-
He's asking, are you going to divvy up a portion of that to the other employees in that department?
No, you can't, because the only money that I get from the state has to be spent on child support
Right,
program.
your other employees that work with you.
Oh, my other employees, yes, we all can talk.
Two. I mean, if you're talking about trying to retain some of your attorneys.
Yeah, if I lose, the 3 that I have now, I would, I'll only spend a lot more time in here than what I want to spend in here. Because, especially, Nikki Hartley, is she, and I don't think I'm gonna lose her, because, the 3 staff, they get along great, they work great together, the judges respect them. They can, if I'm not around, I can tell them to do something, and the judges know with my authority that they'll do what they need to be done on cases when somebody's, for instance, I was in Utah and I was getting texts, to take care of, they had somebody that was in jail having medical issues, it wasn't in our county, but to get them out so the county did not have to pay for those medical costs, and getting that done, for me. Like Nikki's was running, Excel reports for me, for stuff that Judge Crane needed. She does their own DNA testing, that is trained to do that, so we can get them done faster. Sometimes she even goes over in the jail and collects them in the jail, so we can get things done in the short timelines they get us to do paternities on. But yeah, but as for the profit that, above the child support that's making, my suggestion is hopefully to retain some of the prosecutors that law has brought in when they're being tempted to go to other places. With, they've got student loans they've got to pay, so, and if you retain them, it seems like every time the amount of serious felonies we see coming in anymore is just.
I'd say just have Locke get his proposal together for that then, and.
Yeah,
I'll just
yeah,
go from there.
and I can address a little bit of that. Are you?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
He's ready to go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Holly.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
So, Locke is on page 76.
And I think overall, in this regard, everything looks pretty good to me. I know I talked to Kristen about it earlier, and I think on the 2020,
That's okay.
budget officer, Kristen, if I recall right, you said that kind of contemplated a 3% raise for employees.
Yes.
Which I think is great. I think they'll all very much appreciate that. I know it's been a while since some of them have even gotten any real raise at all. There are 1 or 2, and maybe just a few employees I would like to specifically kind of address as to why I think they might deserve a little bit more than that 3% raise. because that would be kind of getting into some personnel stuff, if we wouldn't mind doing that in a closed session maybe next week, if we could take it up then, if that's appropriate, but,
Talk
Got
specific
another
people.
phone going on or what?
huh?
Keep hearing something.
Oh. Oh, there's some
Brian.
conversation outside, sorry.
Brian, go somewhere else.
So, anyway,
Close the door.
if we could,
Yeah.
maybe just bring up
Yeah, you can.
on those
It's not
specific
closed session.
individuals,
It doesn't mean
next
it's
week.
closed session necessarily, it just means the door's closed, anybody can come in at any time.
Sorry, you got something?
Sorry, Locke.
Yeah, I know, right? No, you guys are good. So as far as those few employees that I would like to discuss specifically, maybe we could bring that up next week during closed session. I know that next week we've also got some conversation on the VOCA grant that we go for every year. And I've also brought Miranda Lesh with me to discuss the potential VAWA grant we're hoping to get, some federal grant money.
When do you know that?
We don't know. They never really tell you when you're gonna find out until you find out. So I checked this morning, it is still under review. I will tell you, the last time I applied for this grant in a different county, which was 2 years ago, we did not find out if we were approved or denied until January, which causes quite an issue because the grant covers January. But as of right now, we do not know. It's still under review.
Okay, thanks.
And I guess we could go into some more depth on that, well, today and then next week. I'll just finish up kind of with what I've got here. So just a couple other things of note that may pertain to budget. I know Anji's gonna be coming back full-time.
So, just to clarify, that is included in my budget.
Right.
Locke wanted to take her from part-time to full-time. He's currently paying her part-time salary. He's agreed to pay her full-time salary. So it would be an MOU if you guys are in agreement with that, but that is included in my budget.
Yes.
Sure.
And a couple other things that relate to some things we're trying to do to become a little more self-sufficient and generate some more revenue. We've made the decision to start taking on some of the DOR tax cases. Previously, those were not being prosecuted by this office. Mr. Fox, who was previously the first assistant in Audrain County, recommended that we start taking these cases on. He stated that in Audrain County, that revenue brought in about $15,000 to $20,000 per year to the prosecutor's office, as well as to the county general revenue. I believe it's 10 cents of every dollar 10 cents goes to the prosecutor's office, and then 10 cents goes to the county itself. So, just based on obviously the population difference and the fact that DOR is housed here, he said we could probably expect maybe 3 to 4 times that amount to be generated here in Cole County, which would again allow me to be my office to be a little more self-sufficient in funding some things, and obviously would generate some additional revenue for the county, maybe enough to buy Sam his red Corvette. And
Oh.
Whoa.
in addition to that, previously this office was not collecting reimbursement on DOC cases that we get from the Department of Corrections. We are able to do so. I believe it's to the tune of about $450 per case. And so that could also generate a significant amount of revenue for the office if we're able to do that. I mean, I know we get typically about, I was running the numbers on it, we've gotten as many as, in previous years, about 100 plus referrals on those cases. Now, obviously not all of those are going to get filed, but you're still talking about dozens, if not more, DOC cases every year where we can also get some additional revenue out of that, or reimbursement that this office was not previously seeking or getting. So other than that, I know that Miranda has her VAWA stuff here to present. I know it kind of presents a slightly tricky situation, so, because we might not know till January whether or not we actually get anything, but, are you
Yeah.
ready to go?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, and Locke's exactly correct. We are kind of putting the cart before the horse in this case because we don't know what the federal government is going to grant us, if anything. So what I can talk to you all today is why I think we need to request federal funding to support a full-time domestic violence prosecutor, and also tell you what I requested. Now, what I requested would be the best case scenario. If they say yes, 100%, here's what we're going to offer. So I'm more than happy to talk to you about that, but just keep in mind that they can say yes 100%, no, you don't get anything, or anywhere in between. So I do actually have the application that I sent in, and it does have the exact statistics on what I requested, if you all would like to see that copy right now. So, and I think if you all would like, we'll just talk about the numbers first then. So, what we requested is for the federal government to support a full-time domestic violence prosecutor. And why I say support is important, because with anytime you apply for federal grant money, there's always the catch. And the catch is you cannot use federal funds to supplement or supplant, sorry, you can't use them to supplant current local funds. So what that means is I've applied for my salary to be funded in part by the federal government, but that would require us to bring on an additional prosecutor. So just talking statistics and money first, if you go to the last tab, the first tab covers the salary range, and this contract would be for 2 years. But the last tab is the total cost of the project. And so the total amount that the local match, which would be Cole County, would be 24 to 25%, and that would be a little over $37,000. That would mean from the federal government for total benefits, that's salary, that's health insurance, that's helping pay towards the retirement plan, would be over $100,000. Again, with the understanding that we would have to bring on an additional prosecuting attorney to take over the other duties, such as the burglary cases, the controlled substance cases, the conflict cases that I cover in Boone and other counties.
And that could be more of an entry-level position, from what Miranda and I have discussed. So, and I know I've kind of made mention before about eventually needing another APA one way or the other, just because the caseload continues to increase. So I think this would be an excellent opportunity to get that done. Again, obviously contingent on what the federal government chooses to do here for us, but best case scenario, I think it could be a great opportunity to basically get a 2-for-1 type of deal.
So they could give us all, they could give us just a portion.
Or they could tell us.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And
Okay.
that's why I'm saying it's kind of the cart before the horse, because
Okay.
I can't tell you today what they will say. But I will tell you, as soon as I find out, I will let you all know. They send us a contract where they lay everything out. So you all should have that as soon as I do. And then obviously I'll be back on the agenda to talk about it. But that way you all will know the contract as soon as I do.
We'd still have the 25% match, and then you're saying we would have to replace you, but not necessarily replace you. We can write entry level.
Correct.
So essentially, it's like a $0 difference. isn't it?
It's going to be.
That would be
25%.
No, the 25% could be offset by having an entry level instead of a.
This is her first year here too, so.
Well, but she came in as an APA too.
Oh, she did.
Yes, so Miranda's more
Might
mid
offset
to
a
upper
little
level
bit of difference.
our, yes. So by bringing in an entry level, there would be some offset there, yeah.
But we'd also have another attorney for that little bit of difference.
That's correct. I mean, that's the hope, right? That's the hope
I'm
of,
kind of thinking out loud, to make sure I was following all this.
absolutely,
So it-
absolutely. Yeah, so.
Most likely it's still gonna cost us something.
It will still
But we're
cost
already-
something.
Not as much as the additional
But
staff
just-
would.
Correct.
We
It
get
would-
another
It would cost
APA.
less than to just bring in a new APA.
Right,
I
and
mean,
that total number, that last tab there, that includes the salary as well as the other benefits. So yeah, if the 75% you could cover an employee with everything, then yes, you're correct, kind of a get one if you will. But why I think it's really important that you have one prosecutor dedicated to domestic violence. I could talk all day to you about prosecuting domestic violence. It's my passion. But domestic violence cases are unlike any other case because it's not a one-time deal. It's not a fight at the bar because of alcohol. It's combating learned behaviors by an abuser against his victim. You know, these individuals have relationships. They have history. No relationship ever started with a punch or a hit. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a date two. And so it's that combating this long relationship using coercive tactics that require so much attention. Domestic violence cases are very labor intensive, especially for the prosecutor. It's extremely important to build that relationship with the victim in order to surround her with community resources such as RACs and ensure that we can empower and embolden her to get away from her abuser. So in the prior administrations, they did not have one prosecutor dedicated to domestic violence. They had around 6 or 7. They also had a culture of putting responsibility on the victim to participate. They had what was called a one-drop policy. And that means if a victim came in and she wanted to drop a case against an abuser, they would say, okay, this is the one-time policy and we'll do it. The issue when you have so many prosecutors covering domestic violence is in practice it sounds like a good policy, one time, off you go, but in reality it means that multiple cases were being dropped over and over and over again. And the issue is that emboldens your offender to continue to reoffend. And it doesn't keep our community safe, and it certainly doesn't keep our victims safe. So through this grant, it's to fund a full-time prosecutor dedicated to bringing justice to our community as well as our victims. And that means adhering to what's called a no-drop policy. And again, in addition to the inherent nature of domestic violence, sticking to a no-drop policy also requires more work. It means when a victim comes in and she doesn't want to cooperate, I just lost my star witness. Now I have to examine that case using evidence-based practices. That means take away my victim, can I prove this case? Can I prove this case using what my officers do in the field? Can I use this case based on eyewitnesses, based on hearsay exceptions? So it adds in additional work that has to be conducted by the domestic violence prosecutor. And that work also requires, it starts from day one. It starts from when those officers walk into that scene. And so in addition to working the case and prosecuting the case, this grant will also allow us to train officers. And part of the collaboration for this grant was with the Cole County Sheriff's Department. They wrote a letter of support in support of us seeking this grant, in addition to supporting us help train local law enforcement officers so we can use those evidence-based tactics from day one all the way to prosecution. And I will tell you, for this grant, I spent hours, evenings, days going through statistics. And that for me is really where the statistics kind of show the need. So in the year of 2017 and 2018, the office helped over 800 victims of domestic assault. On average, your caseload is around 400. Right now, mine is 344. That's a lot. That's a lot in conjunction with how much work and how much time and attention these victims need. Because this abuser has maybe isolated her financially, has maybe isolated her from her friends, from her family, from her support group. Now the person who's bringing in the money to help feed her kids is in jail, and she has motivations that we need to help her address. Motivations of, I've got to feed my kids, I've got to keep shelter over their head, what do I do? Having a domestic violence prosecutor dedicated to combating these crimes and helping those victims improves her ability to get connections with resources like RACs. Also, in addition to the Cole County Sheriff's Department, RACs also supported us in applying for this grant. And I will tell you, looking towards the future, one of my hopes with this grant is establishing a community response team to combat domestic violence. So that's a little bit about why I think we need this grant, assuming the federal government provides us.
Fingers crossed. Okay.
Do you want these back?
Sure.
Yeah.
I actually will take one.
Let's,
Thanks.
you know, I appreciate, Locke, that you're looking for
Oh, yeah.
new sources of
Miranda, we need one for the minutes as
income and
well.
things like that. And we
Just
were
wanna
a
lay
little
it
bit
there.
stagnant for,
Yeah,
so this
and I
is-
think a lot of it is
yeah.
just, you know, in some ways, not saying that anything was ever done intentionally or what, but maybe just getting, you know, some fresh eyes in there and looking at it in a new way and finding, you know, ways that other counties have been using to generate a little more revenue in the office. We've luckily been able to bring that in, so hopefully we'll hear back from the federal
Yeah.
government soon, and I guess otherwise we can, I know that was a lot of information, so if you guys want to digest that, and we can tackle it again next week and just kind of see what questions, concerns you guys might have on it, that would be.
Tuesday is when you guys want to do that?
Do you want to add a
Well, we've
closed
already got,
session?
yeah, we've already got the VOCA grant set for discussion next week, so I figured we could just kind of tack this onto that if you guys want, or if you have.
So add a
Got some
closed,
closed session
yeah,
personnel, yeah.
add a
And
closed.
then just closed for, yeah.
So
Okay.
just to give everybody kind of a heads up is if we don't have the information prior to when you approve the budget, most of the time that process will follow a court order process to get that grant put into the budget, so.
okay.
Okay, all right, thank
Okay.
you all very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep looking
Good
for
luck
money
with
for
that
that, that high performance.
No.
Emergency,
V8.
yeah.
Thanks, Miranda.
Hey, thank you
Thanks,
all.
Locke. Have a good day.
You too.
Joe, you ready?
Sure.
Joe's budget is on page 57.
You said you didn't have any changes, right, Joe? All
Oh,
right.
Not really.
okay.
I do have a request if there is some other office space available. We're running out. We could use bigger quarters.
Is that here downtown, or is that where?
Doesn't matter. It works better if we stay downtown because of my utilization of this building and the sheriff's department.
I think one way or another by 2021, we will have had to do something, so.
Other than that, the budget's fine. The only one that I got iffy on is my travel. I've been trying to get my people closer to me, but their behavior is not suitable for some of the ones closer, so they're spreading out again. So that could change, but I still think I can work within the budget that I have.
So Joe, you've had a open full-time position most of the year. I did not change your full-time positions. I've left that one full-time position in there, and I left your part-time at the same as well. I know that your budget numbers looked a little different than mine. Did you have something else in mind that you were thinking to do there?
For the current staff that I have,
Mhm.
yeah, that I mentioned probably late summer about bumping the salary of one of my staff to the level of the senior deputy position. And then I've got two people that are reluctant to work part-time at the salary, so I'm still dealing with that. If not, then I would probably go back, and this would probably all be taken care of in January, utilizing the full-time position.
Do you guys have questions for Joe?
So you're wanting to bring a couple people on at a higher salary for part-time?
Yes.
Do you have an hourly rate you were thinking?
I had mentioned earlier, late last summer, like $25 an hour, but I don't think that's realistic across the.
1,000-hour employee, or?
And you would have more than one or just one?
Full-time or part-time?
Part-time.
Right now, it's probably gonna be one.
So would you fill the position that you have open, or?
Full-time?
Yep.
I will try to fill it, but I was thinking that that money could be utilized to compensate if I got a deputy salary up to what I'm thinking. The person that is no longer here, she was making $39,000.
I don't have that information. I can't, yeah. I can't get to it at the moment.
So if you can kind of get us that, I mean, so currently you don't have a deputy?
I have a person that's, I think this classification is assistant.
No, it changed last year, so.
She is a deputy, 32.
Right, so he has a deputy 2 at 32,520, and then he has two administrative assistant positions.
Yeah, we talked about chief deputy, and basically said last year you didn't need a chief deputy, you got your other deputies, right? If I remember correctly. So we didn't even have chief deputy in
I didn't even have a
his
deputy.
budget, so. But now you're thinking you need a chief deputy.
Yes.
Any other questions?
So he has an admin assistant open?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, if you could just get us something in writing on what you'd like to propose, you know, your chief deputy at, and, you know, if you wanted to, if you're not gonna fill your admin assistant, and you're gonna use a couple part-time people, you know, we can take a look at that too, so.
Joe, if you can try to have that back here by like Monday or Tuesday, because we're gonna talk about salaries next week.
Will do.
Okay.
I'm in town, I think. But, like I said, the only thing that I got question on is the travel. I don't claim when I'm in Cole County, I do that on my own. I just charge when I leave Cole County.
So there's 4,000 for mileage and 1,000 for meetings, travels, and dues. Did you have an idea of what you were thinking you wanted that to be?
On my travel. To give you a guess, I'd have to know where they're gonna be placed. I mean, there's a difference if they're in Columbia versus Trenton or Chillicothe, Maryville, Springfield. I have one in the Boot Hill now.
So right now, Joe, I think the projection's only that you're gonna be right at about 3,000, and there's $4,000 in there. But if you think you need more than that, you're gonna have to give me some idea of what that is.
I will.
Okay.
Well, there was a quarter, I didn't turn it in late, I didn't get reimbursed for, so.
Okay. Any other
Anything else?
questions?
No?
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Joe.
Okay, do you guys wanna flip to page 65 and look at Julie Cole's budget, cause she said she was not coming, but if we have questions, we could call and ask.
Is there any big changes in there? Not a whole lot there.
No.
Yeah, her budget was pretty much the same as last year's, and I didn't really make any changes to it, slight changes maybe.
Yep, slight. So, I don't have any questions on it.
One thing to notice there is their jury script money. So in the past, they were getting reimbursed for, I think it's any of the trials that actually go to a jury for that time. We haven't gotten anything the last 2 years really, so I've taken that revenue out of the budget instead of planning on it.
Okay.
Another one we should have looked at while Joe was here.
Is the revenue.
Yeah, his
I just-
revenue.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't bring it up.
If you go back to page 57, I can Try to catch
Yeah,
him.
try to catch him, cause that one's pretty significant. So when Marilyn was here, we were reaching revenues of $90,000, $100,000 a year in fees for his people. The first year Joe was here, it kind of dropped off some, which we kind of expected because Marilyn did a lot of cleanup of cases right before she left. So it was only like 66,000. This year so far we've only collected 33. Sorry, Joe. We forgot to talk about your revenue.
The fees.
Yes.
That's dependent on if there's money. I can't collect a fee if there's nothing there.
Right. It just seems like it's dropped off significantly over the last 2 years.
Yeah, and most of my people don't have money. They should be picking up again because I've had several people that had real estate that we acquired and sold. So,
Because it had been pretty steady for the last 4 or 5 years. Now it's really dropped off.
was it running about 75, 80?
We were-
Now it's down about 35, 40.
Yeah, right now you're at 33,871.
And we filed a whole bunch of settlements.
Okay.
So,
Questions?
That'll just be something we'll keep an eye on, see what we're doing different, maybe doing something wrong, or something slipping through the cracks.
Okay.
It's a significant change.
It's a significant change.
Yeah, we need to keep an eye on it and see. I mean, I'm sure that Maryland's people didn't have money either, but somehow we got some kind of reimbursement.
So I've brought it up and it has picked up here in the last probably 60 days.
Yeah.
Cause my projection was only 20,000.
Yeah, we were only at 16 when this book was printed.
Yeah, so, we may be able to adjust that up a little bit, cause I dropped it down to 25,000. But I'm a little concerned, cause that's a significant change in that revenue.
And you know how revenue goes. Doesn't increase that much anymore.
But I don't think we can continue to budget it at 85 either,
No,
because we're not seeing anywhere
Yeah.
close to that.
I would not do that.
Do we have a list of like, not names per se, but how many personnel that we are taking care of?
Yes.
She does,
So
we
what
do.
are our numbers compared to when Maryland had it?
It's very similar as far as number of clients.
Okay, I thought maybe the numbers went down for some reason or another, and, okay.
And I agree, he does have multiple clients that don't have any fees to take.
So she-
Okay.
So we kind of left it open today. We can talk about other people's budgets. We can, right? Isn't that on there?
I think we did add budget discussion, so if you guys wanna, is there anything from today we wanna go back and talk about? Most of what we talked about again today was salary stuff, so, we made a few changes to EMS, but I made those while he was here. He had two other changes, the medical supplies and the public relations that he brought up.
I don't think medical supplies will ever go down, so. It's,
I guess really, in any changes to his budget at this point are gonna have to reduce the contingency or increase the transfer in to balance his budget back out.
Who we talking about?
EMS.
I hope I don't have a heart attack or something, cause he's not gonna come save me, but I'm not really for adding another person I know really wants the logistics. But we've got some people over that can, for now, take care of keeping track of medicines. They're just gonna have to learn to do that. Supervisors too, have to step it up, but raising the other one, and bring that chart back up. Consider that chief of training, if that's indeed gonna be a number 3 person.
So I do currently have the logistics person in there, but I don't have any other salary adjustments. Like I said, I put the 3% for the
I would-
admin staff.
I, again, would rather take care of the people we have there than to add that position. If we're gonna do that. That's just where I'm at right now. That may change tomorrow, you know me.
And I guess the public relations, I haven't gotten a good list from him of what we're gonna spend that on. I know he has lots of ideas of classes he wants to do, but is that gonna be printing pamphlets and training education materials? Is that buying equipment to teach the classes? What goes into that public relations line? So any thoughts on those two? Like I said, we can leave salaries till later if you want.
I think I think really we do need a logistics officer. I think, you know, David, when he was logistics officer, he did an awesome job, and
Well, I think he did an awesome job. I just think it can be something that can be spread out among all of them to take care of and to keep an eye on. And it's probably not bad to have more than one person working on it and knowing what's going on, because if you have just one person and they leave, then nobody really knows what's going on, and you're starting at ground one again. So, like I said, I'd just soon, I don't necessarily want to add that one at this point.
I don't know if you've got people who will step forward to do it.
Well, I mean, if they don't have to step forward, we can push them. That was part of the job. What was the other thing?
There was two,
Training and-
medical supplies, 15,000 more, and then a public relations line, that was 8,000. And then, of course, other salary issues, but like I said, we can leave those till later if you want.
So we're gonna look at all new positions and all salary adjustments all at one time?
I think so.
Can you put that all on?
Yeah, that's kind of think that's what we were
What
gonna
you
do.
have in there?
Yes.
How many
So,
more each-
anybody that wants a significant
Well,
adjustment more than the 3% COLA,
Yeah, so I have a list that I can type out here. I've been going
Right.
through
I
and
just
double
wanted-
checking the ones they came in and asked for again.
I just wanted to clarify, but anything more than a 3% COLA adjustment or merit or whatever you wanna call it, and then any new positions.
Christian has time to get
So-
that together before next week.
I didn't get to ask him when he was here a while ago, but
Thanks.
have we had a
Thanks. Where's
significant
that
change
bus?
in
You
call
want me to take a
volumes
step?
It's just
From-
in
easier.
19 compared to 18?
For EMS,
Yeah.
I don't know, though, that it's significant.
We had 3 more.
He was telling me it was around 10,000, 8,000 go through, are transferred through Jeff Central. Those are emergency calls, about 8,000, and 2,000 are direct calls that are just non-emergency transfers.
Okay, well, this is where the med supplies come in, is if, I understand if we have increased calls, increased volume of people we're taking care of and med supplies that we're using, that is what it is.
Well, I'm not sure that it's increased in volume. I mean, it could be increase in costs, you know, raising their prices, you know, cost adjustments.
And he said call volume, so that's what I was going off of.
And it could be too, I don't.
They come out with new prescriptions and new medicines are always gonna be more expensive.
Then we should be billing them the
Still
extra that
talking
it
about
costs, right?
Medical.
If we give you a shot of something and it costs us more.
You
then
would think
should
it
be
would
passed
work
on.
like that, but I'm not
Yeah, I
sure that
don't-
it does.
I-
I think the base call is, I don't think you can bill for everything that you use.
Yeah, he was talking about that one time too, that is a mess, but it should cover,
Should cover your costs, but
Yeah.
not always does
so.
that.
And I thought he just went through a bunch of the supplies, and that's one of his arguments for needing a logistics officer, is that it was a mess, and so they cleared out a bunch of stuff and we had to replace it. So if everything's back up to par. So I don't know if we leave it at 180 and keep an eye on it and see what happens, or do we up it now and then it's covered?
I'd up it, and if you don't use it, then
Okay, so we gotta take it away from somewhere though. Same with the PR stuff. If we wanna do PR, we're gonna find $8 grand somewhere, either take it from education.
or you give it as 7,000 for a paramedic scholarship. I still like that idea.
Now, if you wanna do the scholarship, we can put it in there, you just gotta take it away from somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's, yeah.
So,
I think I have to have Jill research that. I don't know if I should call it that.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that with the other, where we get them licensed and get all this, and then they immediately leave. So that needs to be a countywide policy that if we pay for their training, that they need to stay with us for 3 years or reimburse us for the training.
I do want to talk about the county commission's budget, but if the sheriff's got something first, we can wait, but I don't want you guys leaving.
so what are we doing with the medical supplies and PR? I was just trying to get that answered.
Yep,
I thought those were low-hanging fruits, but,
they are, and you can finish them.
low-hanging fruit, but I've been talking for 10 minutes.
Well, we
about it.
can take the PR and just talk to Matt more and maybe not put it in for right now. I think medical supplies, nothing gets cheaper. So. But the PR is, that's not something that we necessarily have to have. Drugs, that's something we do have to have. It's kind of like giving him bullets, you don't want them to have their one bullet in their shirt pocket.
That's fine.
They had to have drugs, I'm just saying.
But if we're going to increase it 15,000, then it's gotta come from somewhere, so where do we wanna take it from? And I don't know if we throw that back in his lap and say we can increase that, but it's gotta come from somewhere, or do
We can ask him, yeah.
we leave it at 180, and if it comes to it at the end of the year, and we have to take it from contingency, we do it then. I mean, we got control of it, so.
So as you're trying to digest this stuff, I'm just trying to understand your thought process here. So obviously Kristen created a proposed budget. And so are you saying that her proposed budget is what you're going off of, or are you going off actual expenditures, or what are you looking at to say this is a number that each department has?
Both, all three. I'll look at where we're at for this year, where we were at maybe in 18, and why they're wanting to request more. If it's actual usage, that is what it is, and we can pull that from contingency. Now, the PR thing, see, that
So-
is something that you have to have here.
So let's walk through that. So last year, total activity 181,827. Year to date right now, 178,12. But he just did a transfer, so I'm assuming he has additional bills out there to pay. But he has $10,000 to spend between now and the end of the year to get him to the 180. Projected back in September was 182,667. And the additional 15 would take him to 195.
So you're looking at just expenditures, right?
Yep.
That one's not a hard break either way. I'm not gonna fight down if we go up to the 195, if we need to. If we truly feel that those are kind of increase in either cost or volume, or both, then just go 195, and we take that out of contingency then, reduce to contingency, right?
So we did start the year at 195. He's transferred some of that out to go other places.
So we can't see 19 budget. That's an amended budget.
Original's up on the screen. 195, 110 was original.
So we brought it down for some reason.
He's transferred out to other places.
Okay. Well, I mean, if we're gonna have to do a transfer later on, we might as well put it in there now, but.
So I mean, you can inflate any line item within that budget that you want, you know, thinking, oh, well, we may need this, or, I mean, we've heard that from almost everybody that comes in here. I'm not sure that's gonna be enough. Well, that's why contingency is built into the budget.
So leave it 180?
Well, so I mean, obviously, you try to get people to work within, you know, a budget that's reasonable. Obviously, he's got costs that are associated, that we can look at, you know. His costs are gonna be around 182 is projected for medical supplies, so, you know, here nor there, but I also look back at revenues, and, you know, our revenues are down, and supposedly they're supposed to be going way up. Well, that's not happening either, or at least it hasn't happened yet. But I know there was a lot of stuff that they had to go back, and hopefully this new billing company will be able to increase those revenues.
I hope.
State funds, what
All right, what's your pleasure?
Originally,
180,
he
and that's what-
requested 180. We gave him 180, so you can leave it at 180, and then if it does go over, we take it out of contingency.
Good by me?
Okay, and then public relations.
What exactly is that, can I ask?
It was more like outreach, with schools and, you know, different events where you go out and engage the public in different things, like probably the naloxone thing where you're, you know, talking to people about how to administer an overdose drug, if, you know, they got a child or somebody that's had issues with drug abuse, or he was talking about Stop the Bleed in the schools for active shooter training and different things, or maybe that's
So
not.
hiring people to do that, or supplies they need
I
for
don't,
that?
I don't know, I mean, $8,000, I don't think you're gonna hire somebody to do that, I think.
Well, I mean, to
Well,
train
and
class.
I mean,
Right.
if you have the equipment to teach the class,
Right.
we're paying for the salary out of salary line, what are you, like, is it
I don't know.
supplies or
Nope.
You're
what?
asking the wrong person.
Yeah,
We can revisit that with Matt next week when we're.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be specialized supplies to go out. I mean, it's actually a good idea to be able to.
Have
to
some
be able to
kind of
take
giveaway.
Stuff to give away to when you go to these outreach programs and stuff, so it's not a bad idea.
And that's what I didn't know for sure, I didn't wanna speak for him on it, so, I mean,
how much do you spend on like DARE and, is it 3?
Yeah, but I mean, we do it differently because sometimes I'll end up buying out of civil to make this right, and there's sometimes that we'll end up spending some other monies that we have, so. But it's a great idea to be able to come up with, you know, like the firefighters, stop,
Stickers.
drop and roll and stickers and, yeah.
yeah.
But if it's, you know, brings that good rapport to the public, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not a bad thing at all.
okay, we can talk to him about it next
Yeah.
week, see what he's got in mind on it.
Yeah.
Okay, what next?
Debbie wants to
Let
do,
John-
yeah,
Unless John's got.
Little John?
I just have a couple things I was gonna bring up, since when we left here with,
Just leave it off.
Richard Lee, I went back, and so, what's that?
Nothing, go ahead.
Oh, so, you turned me off, or?
No.
So,
Talking to Debbie.
I
Is
didn't
there
want
a
to follow
switch?
through.
there is a switch, it's called a baseball bat, but anyway, so, I went back and I think I'm gonna change my budget, just on the capital improvements and add a $30,000 line item, because he is nowhere close to being able to go live yet with this, because he's still gotta talk to Oscar and stuff. But at least if I have it in my line item, because it's a one-time payment thing, I'm good with that. We can put it in my capital improvements. If it doesn't work out, then it just sits in my capital improvements and we don't have to worry about it. But that way, if it does, if something does happen with Oscar and they get a sold, then they might be able to get us, to let them hook into their system, and then we can move forward with it. So, doing that, it's gonna, because I was gonna use my biometric money, and I talked to you guys about this once before about my jail van. I need to replace my jail van, so I'm gonna use the biometric money for that. And we talked about this like 4 months ago or something. And it's about, I mean, it's 50,000. It's all coming out of my biometrics. It's in my budget, and it's all state contracts. So I'd like to move forward with that too. We talked about it, and then we got into it when we were down there having a staff meeting. We got into a slight argument on if we actually said how much money it was gonna be, and I'm almost positive we said it was gonna be around 50,000 for the insert, and this is a new van, the insert in a new van. So I just thought I would come up and tell you, if it's okay, I'd like to press forward this month and encumber that money out of my biometrics money and go ahead and get those to that van. Again, it's coming out of my budget right now, so it's not like I'm having to go back to you for money.
What,
It's gonna replace a van that's got 250,000 miles on it, over 250,000. It's gave its life for guys and families.
still running?
We don't take it on long trips anymore, but.
Should we give that to Greg too? We
Well,
keep,
that's what
we
I'm-
just keep.
We would be able to sell it, we'd get some money for it, but I don't know how much. It would be very much it would get for it. Just
So,
9 miles.
engine problems, transmission
We've had
problems?
engine problems with it before, it's been fixed, it's still running. But like I said, what we don't need is, we don't need a van with 6 prisoners in it,
Right.
broke down in Cape Dorado, so.
Most of Greg's stuff is here in town, so.
So
It's in good shape, though? I mean,
It's not in bad shape. I mean,
It's showing its age. I
It
see
is
it.
more
I
showing
see
its
it.
age.
I see it
it's
coming and
it's-
going.
It's wore pretty good. It rattles more than it rolls, I think, but,
what year is it?
I couldn't tell you that.
You can tell us, go ahead.
The
Don't be
Lord.
scared.
Older than 2000?
No, it's not.
That's in good shape then.
Yeah.
What you guys are talking about.
Well, as far as rattles, if Greg wants something to haul
It'll rattle a
equipment and
lot if
stuff
you
in
put
it,
equipment in
it
it.
doesn't really,
I don't know if he would want this van.
Okay.
I would not recommend it. I would,
okay.
for the simple reason to do that, you're gonna have to pay someone to take. the
Take
insert
everything out.
Let
yeah.
Wheeler use it for his car then.
Well, he got his from
Yeah.
from
Yeah, I
Richardson.
got Richardson's old.
He got, yeah.
I just spent $800 for shocks on it yesterday. But anyway, if it's okay with you, we're gonna press forward with that van, and go ahead and get it on order. It'll be a month or 2 months before we get it in,
What kind of van is it? New or?
but Chevy, yeah, a new, it's on state contract, a new Chevy, cargo van with the, has to have the rear air in it.
And so you got money in biometrics that you're
Yes.
gonna buy that with?
Yes.
So,
I have 98,000 in there right now.
and so what's it gonna cost to outfit it?
Well, right now, the vehicle is like 21, this isn't gonna be a good number because it's not an extended cab, but the state number is 21, about 21,000 if you add all the, because we're gonna get the bigger engine. It's gonna roughly, right now, it's 40,800 is what it's, the insert, off-state contract, and then the van itself, but then we're still gonna have to pay for it to get outfitted or to get installed. And that's not gonna be cheap, because it's $2,500 for a car, so you're probably, for this van, you're talking probably 4,000 or 5. And then we gotta get a video system in it, so it's gonna be probably another $1,500, $2,000 for that.
So the van's 40?
The van is 21.
With the insert, it's
With the insert, I'm sorry, with the insert, it's 44.5.
The insert is what?
It's like
The
a cage.
It's a
Wow.
pill.
Damn cage is more than the damn van. huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not cheap. 15.5 is how much it is.
It's more than that.
No?
You said the total cost was 44.5 and the van was 21, so
Well,
that's.
it's 21 before you add the extras, so it comes
Oh,
with
okay.
no rear air and, stuff like that. We want the bigger engine,
Okay.
that kind of stuff.
You just have one van?
No, this will be our second one. We have 2 vans and a car.
What do you guys think? Good?
Oh, I'm fine with it.
I'm good. I see them coming and going. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
I'll work on
it's,
this. I'm hoping to be able to hopefully encumber the money tomorrow, so, I've already got the bid for the insert. I just gotta call the company because it's, the bid isn't where I want it because it's a normal express van and it needs to be an extended. So it's gonna be a little bit more than 21 base price, but it's not gonna go over 50,000.
so there's no value on the old insert.
No, it cost us more to take it out, repair it, and put it back in,
Okay.
and it would be worth it.
Okay.
And the last guys that installed it almost spit on your shoe. I guess it's a real pain to put together, so.
Okay.
All right, that's it for me, but like I said, you'll see our capital improvements gonna change. We're gonna put that 30,000 on our capital improvements for that program for PGS. All right,
You're okay. Yeah.
thank you.
I don't care what they say about it.
When I walk out of the room, it's on tape, Jeff. See y'all later.
Mute.
Hey, can we look at this emergency services sales tax real quick? So I was just trying to follow the numbers just on the sales tax side. But obviously you had the 690 in there for ambulances, and you had the 179 in there for capital improvements. And so as I look at the sheet, are you?
You have to add that capital lease line. So the capital lease is his striker cop payment.
Capital lease were, oh, okay.
So
that's the
those
120.
two together is his capital list.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
So that's part of the striker, big portion of that is the striker payment,
Right.
or almost all of it.
Well, so the
Is there
two-
something else in there? I mean, is there another 4,000 in the capital lease that's, makes the 122.6 versus the 118, or?
It's 122.6, that's his payment. I don't know what the 118,
So just see the 118.5 over on the capital side.
Yeah, that was his, but.
I think
the
that may have
actual
been
payment-
his number in his request, but the actual payment's 122.6.
Okay, so So maybe we can change that on the other side too, on his capital request.
Oh, yeah. And one other change in there, and, I went ahead and made it cause we have to, but, we did not have advance notice of the St. Mary's TIF and got that bill this year. And I did not include that TIF in the sales taxes, so in that tax increment financing line is where we pay that TIF money back. So I had dropped that because the 3 TIFs we had were running under our expectations, but I had to bump it back up to the 15 to cover that St. Mary's TIF.
And we
that's-
are kinda in limbo as to what that's going to be
Yeah, so
going
that,
forward.
that TIF's gonna continue to grow as they add additional businesses on that property. It's going to continue to grow, cause right now the only, business that's on there that was reporting sales tax this year was the coffee place.
Okay.
But once the Burger King opens, that will add to it, and since their original tax base was 0, they get half of all of the sales tax that they collect back.
Half of all the sales tax, or just the local sales tax?
Well, our portion, so yes, half of our portion.
I mean, they still gotta pay the state their,
Right, I don't think the state, yeah,
Yeah,
but like the city's portion, they get
Right.
half of it from the city back, they get half of the county's portion of sales tax back.
so that TIF encompassed across the expressway into the Starbucks and Burger King and what else?
the hotel.
The
and whatever's
hotel on
coming
the other
in.
side, so
Hotel.
when it opens.
And they're looking
And
at
the
some
outlots,
retail. and-
outlots on that side of Missouri Boulevard that they'll develop then as well, I assume.
I assume, I
Yeah, we
haven't
didn't get
seen,
in on much of that.
so right now, our guess, like right now, we broke down the first one and it was about, what, 2,000 per sales tax, but that was, again, just for the Starbucks, so, we're taking a guess that maybe 6 next year, but that could be way less than what it actually turns out to be.
Were they just having a public comment on that? I mean,
No, that was, let's see.
I don't think they ever
The
gathered
city
the
was.
committee together to discuss that, but, I mean,
Oh, I
obviously
think
the
we
city
did
could
that
do it.
way, I think that's
It
been
was
quite a
it
while
was
ago.
quite a while
And see,
ago.
the thing was, at the time, St. Mary's was not-for-profit, they weren't paying any tax. So.
So their
uh,
tax base was 0.
Yeah, their tax base was 0. So we are getting some tax.
It's a real estate part of that.
Pardon?
The real estate part of that, right? Versus
Well,
what it was, well, I guess they were paying
We're-
real estate too, yeah. St. Mary's.
right, but this is just a sales
They,
tax.
they were paying tax, yeah, after they built the new hospital, then I think they had to pay tax on the old hospital, I think.
So the
But-
TIF is just on 50% of the sales tax, they still have to pay real and personal.
Well, they get a portion of it too, so there's seats and eats or whatever it is, so there's a sales tax portion of a TIF, and then there's also a property tax portion of the TIF. Property tax portion will run through Larry, and it will come off the top before it comes to us. On the sales tax side, we get all the sales tax, and then once a year, they calculate what that portion is, and we have to pay it back to the developer.
How long does that go?
I don't know if that was
Oh,
20
for
years.
God.
Yeah, I don't
Like
have
20 years?
paperwork in front of me.
Or 10?
I don't have paperwork in front
I
of
have
me.
it on
That's
my-
fine, I was just curious if you knew right off.
She
I don't
gave
know
me
off
for
the
the
top of
city.
my head.
It's been a
I
while.
don't see them lasting less than 10. so.
But we still are collecting some tax where before we weren't collecting any tax on it.
Right, it's just hard to see.
I know, yeah,
Yeah. It's hard to see that
Yeah.
increase when it comes as our regular distribution,
Yeah.
because you can't say,
Yeah.
oh, well, this is the amount of tax that's coming from here we weren't getting before.
Right, and some businesses close, some, you
Right.
know, that could change the overall. And since sales tax has been pretty flat, we're anticipating flat, so.
Wonder what they do on that lodging tax, city's lodging tax.
I don't know.
I mean,
So-
when you build the hotel.
So that's one other change I made while we were in here, cause I'm gonna have to go through all the sales taxes and change that back. And like I said, the 15,000 is just an estimate of what those 4 TIFs will cost us.
And if you guys can just turn to 37, there's not much on that budget.
So 15,000 is a total amount overall,
That's all 4 TIFs, so we
Okay.
have O'Donoghue, South
right, but
Side.
it's all 3 sales taxes too, right?
Yes, so it gets divided, yes, across all 3.
And I could.
What page? I'm sorry.
Chart of what we've basically given up all these years.
What page are we going to?
37. Again, you don't see much there. I mean, we don't obviously bring in any revenue, but there are some expenses there. And you were talking about the other day how much was in our meetings and travel. All 3 of you and anybody else that we decide to go on any kind of training, there's 2,000 in there. We also have another 2,000 and 127 I use for when you guys go to meetings that affect more than just your commission job. Okay, so we talked about that. There's just a couple things I wanted to bring up as far as, you know, as you know, since the budget's put out, I may have somebody gone for 3 months this next year. I may be coming to you asking for a part-time person. That is not in the budget currently. It's become increasingly more activity within our department when we have 6 to 8 turnovers every 2 weeks. It's a lot of employees that come and go. It's a lot of websites that we have to maintain. And we added another website this year, which is Surf Deferred Comp. Now we have to go onto their website and add people in there, take people off, and I have to upload the direct deposits to them, or sheet to them, or report to them. We also are gonna add in 2020 election workers that are gonna flow through the payroll system. Yes, we flowed them through the accounts payable before, but putting them into the payroll system is going to take manpower to get all that in, and then to pay them, what do you say, 5 elections next year, in the middle of all our payrolls that come every 2 weeks. So, I just want you to know I'm definitely going to probably ask you for part-time. It's gonna be the summer months, May through July. Also want to put a word in for our employees. We seem to be an example here, and we seem to be forgotten some, because we are trying to set an example for other departments. So I'd like you to keep that in mind. The girls work very hard. They make you guys look good, make the county look good, and they are dedicated to this place. So I don't want them to get lost, and I want to speak for them, that, you know, you guys consider whatever we're going to do with salaries next week. I know we're all county employees, and I know we have different facets of different jobs that we do. Some things, you know, the sheriff, EMS, health, but we can't forget about the other people that make things run. And without them, everything wouldn't run, you know, so. And I'm working more with the HR consultant people. We're kind of behind the scenes. I really appreciate that. I appreciate being able to call somebody, text somebody when people bring questions to me. I know you guys don't see it, and I'm probably not keeping you abreast of all of that, but I am using them. We haven't, you know, we had to pay a deposit on that, so I haven't received any invoice. But it's very short questions. I'm not sure how she's gonna bill. But I see that taking a lot more time, but it is a help to have that. So, and where we go with that,
How much you thinking for part-time?
I was thinking, you know, $17 to $18 an hour, and so I was thinking about $4,000 or $5,000.
Okay.
And the HR people have been pretty responsive.
They have. Now, I mean, they're not instant.
Right.
But, you know, by the next day, I have usually an answer from somebody. And they're very good to work with. I've only had 1 meeting on the manual, and it's coming to you soon. So, but, after the budget, yeah. She says, we'll get this done at the end of the year. I said, well, you're not gonna get this done by the end of the year.
No.
So,
So you made one comment about meetings, travels and dues, and so some of that, you said some of our travel and stuff comes out of the commission portion and some comes out of 127.
Yes.
So if you're paying for your annual training
Okay,
that you're required to go to as a commissioner, or you're going to a meeting that you're on a board as the commissioner,
Right.
then it comes out of the commission's budget.
okay,
If you're going to something where you're representing the county and not something required of your job, it gets paid out of 127.
And again, so there's 2,000 there
that
too.
would be an example of that.
So like you could say the MAC meeting.
Yes.
You know, you're going to represent Cole County, you're not necessarily going
As your training.
as your training.
Okay, I'm just
And then
curious.
if Jill goes to continuing ed or something like that, I take out a 122 or 120. I actually take it out
127.
Barely. It's about nap time.
We can talk about
Or
127.
lunchtime, well, either one.
Do you wanna look at 127 while we're talking about it?
Yeah.
Page 46 is where it starts. That's revenue. Next two pages is, or next page is expense.
And hopefully be bringing to you the liability insurance and the vehicle next week, but I haven't heard confirmation on that yet.
You can run through the revenue side here.
It does run through, like, the big expense here, on page 46, I'm sorry, 47. And then I do bill the departments I can bill for vehicles and for liability and stuff too, so. But it's a big dollar amount in our budget here.
So financial institution tax at 5,000, what's that?
That's money we receive from, it's statutorily, I don't know.
Yeah, so we get a distribution in January and December of every year. January is always the interest earned on it, and December is, so it comes from the state. I can't give you a good description of what it is.
Most of it comes in and goes back out.
So it's
This is
a
a
tax
small
that
portion.
like banks pay.
Yeah. I've got the definition for it.
Yeah.
Stock insurance.
So that's insurance company, the tax
That do
that they,
business.
yeah.
In this county, and the state sends us
So
that
any
money.
insurance company in this county that sells insurance or whatever pays into that.
It's based on the premiums that are paid. I can get you a definition of that too.
I was just curious.
And it's a
Yeah.
one-time payment.
Yeah.
So it comes once a year.
And then the public defender grant, is that something coming from the state for their?
I bill
We
the two
bill.
entities that, we service three, Cole County, Monotone County, and
Miller.
Miller.
So there's, oh, it's not up there, but yeah, it's based on square footage
Of the building.
of the building and
And population,
minimal amount.
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe $200 in rent for the whole year. then.
Oh, I don't think
It's about 5,000 for Miller and it's about 3,000 for Monotone.
And then health insurance, 45,000.
That's retirees' health insurance, where they
In and
pay,
out.
yeah, they pay
So
back
they're
for
paying
their,
in for
yep.
their portion. Okay. And admin fee reimbursement.
So that's the
Just
administration.
administration fees on everybody's.
Yep, yep.
Other
for
funds.
Computer services and stuff. Okay.
No,
Computers.
computer services goes into Brian's budget, so admin fees like the flat
For
3%.
Payroll and.
Yeah, payroll, Jill,
But in all that.
auditor, yeah.
All together. And, okay. If I have any other questions, unless you guys do. What is professional services encompass under contractual services?
So here's a list, some smaller one-time fees that we pay, so like Jill has Westlaw fees, we pay a hosting fee for the website. We pay, the collector for surtax payback, our agreement with, that surtax issue, bar dues, our annual financial reporting that we do on the jail cops. That's the WM financial annual fee. If we have legal fees, that one's kind of a guess. It's kind of a cushion in case we need to hire out an attorney for something in particular. And then that more source contract.
HR contract. Is there a reason, as I just looking at this, why the MAC and the Venmo RPC are down in materials and supplies, or just because it's always been there?
Yeah,
Basically.
that's,
Basically.
Should be more of a contractual service.
that one was prior to me, yes.
Maybe
That account
prior to
was
me.
there prior to me.
Just-
That's before all that gas was there. Before all that. We'll blame it on Jim. This is something.
I think postage would be going down, but bunch of email and stuff, I guess people are still required to send
No,
stuff.
the
to
majority of
email.
that comes from the courts.
Courts,
And collector,
Yeah,
so a lot of
once a
time,
year.
yeah.
Mhm. Some of that doesn't, I mean, he pays for the initial to go out through, was that Brown Printing or whatever, or Central Bank, I don't know.
Right, but
But
when they
all the
do their big
return.
delinquent
Yes.
one and stuff.
And they've been approaching me several times about new machines and different stuff like that.
postage machines.
Yeah. That one isn't that old though. As far as I'm concerned.
Questions?
Any other budgets you wanna look at? Or what, are we right at it? We're right at 12, so.
Want to stop for today, take a break, come
Yep.
back Monday and?
Yep.
Are we back on
I'd
Monday?
push you tail.
Back here Monday?
Back here Monday. Did we change it to 8 or 8:30, or
We
we
changed
started
them all
at
to
9?
8.
8 o'clock.
8.
Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And we do keep adding stuff to Tuesdays. I don't know, somebody had mentioned limited agenda, but we just added several more things this morning. so-
Yeah, most of those are gonna be pretty quick.
Yeah.
I thought we were stopping that. She even asked about putting some kind of bid award on there, and I think we're trying to limit that agenda. So,
I mean, that's the only time you're meeting.
if
and
anybody
you gotta
else
get
asks,
things
I'm gonna
done.
tell them, make it wait till the 17th if they can,
Yeah.
so we can plow through this stuff, or we're gonna be here all day. So, what all did you put on there?
Just a closed session that would block and.
Oh, well, that's budget anyway. So, okay.
Hopefully they can, people that wanna come talk about personnel, I mean, need to have it all in writing so that we can look at it and make decisions, cause I don't need people to sit in here for 15 minutes and beat around the bush about different stuff.
The
And so-
length of their plea is directly
Well,
related to
so,
whether they.
so you did hear most of the salary
Right.
requests in these budget things. I'm gonna type you up a list by department of what those are.
Thank you, thank you.
Sorry, Chris.
Jeff wants a raise too.
Don't you
quit doing that.
Oh, sorry.
You think I'd be trained that when you
I
walk
mean,
over there?
I'm
Yeah.
fine if they wanna come back in and
Right.
make their plea, but it needs to be, they need to be 60 words or less, and they need to get it out and spill their beans and, okay, fine, thank you, see ya, you're gone.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't wanna get into a whole nother day of sitting and listening,
Right.
because most of them had the opportunity to come in and plead their case during this part of it. If you want to have discussions about each one and they want to be involved, I think that's fine, but a presentation again on what you're wanting, I think is repetitive of what we've already been through. I definitely think if they want to be here that day and answer any additional questions or make any short comments, yes, but I don't wanna sit through another lengthy discussion about each individual one.
I agree.
We're gonna talk about individual positions in closed session.
If-
Individual people, or?
If you start talking about naming names, I don't even know if that's closed. It's public information.
I was gonna say, their current salary is public information,
Right.
unless you're talking about some sort of merit increase for their performance. I think that would be closed.
Evaluations, yes.
Or what about somebody that wants an additional pay for, take Holly, for instance, for additional duties or whatever? I have no idea what that looks like, so.
I think that would be open. I mean, her current salary is public information.
We don't have to have names, you can just talk position anyway, because if the position is taking on additional responsibilities and duties, then that's the way I think it would be addressed. If you wanna name names, that's fine.
I mean, I think there are a few that are individuals that we will be talking about their position. Most of them are titles.
And you have closed session, so either way, you
Yeah.
can get it done next week, Tuesday. Want me to add it to Monday too?
I think Monday we probably should clean up, so we haven't talked about health insurance fund, we haven't talked about your sales tax a whole lot. And I think just kind of flipping through and making sure any changes we have made we're still good with, so we can look at bottom line.
Okay.
But, cause we only go till noon on Monday, right?
Yep.
Yep.
But we're definitely gonna have to make
Tuesday,
some
we might
decisions.
stay here till
You want me to get
I
mine
move
back
we
in here? to
recess till 4:30.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Here, Kristen.
It may not,
Here, Kristen.
it may not be till Monday morning.
You see that?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'll record it.
What you got?
Hello. We don't wanna play